to the games uh, for their um, for their figurative leveraging value. So it's very profound, and also as a perspective shifting mechanism, and as an opportunity to actually practice many things like capital H hearing, like perspective shifting, like extrapolating, implementing, learning, growing. I mean, the way I play the games is, very, very not connected to the to the way the game is designed. Really, you can. It's about getting more out of something deliberately. You can go into it, and there's so much to take out of it. It really is profound. Beside which, if you like art, you're running around in art.
Great.
You actually inside. Look at this painting here, right? I don't know if this is from a game, but it likely is
Could
from
be.
a game. Yeah, if not, there's plenty places in game like this. Now imagine being able to go there and run around and explore. It's unbelievable. I mean, look, like this garden. It could be somewhere inside this. Just, it to me is an incredible thing to run around inside art, because that's the thing. All these games, they have legions of artists that have to create all of this stuff. Every single item in a game, every single item is art. I mean, just that picture of the girl with the bow and the outfit and all this. It's all art. If you like fashion, some people play just for the fashion. They call it fashion wars. And because you can the outfits you can put on your character is, I mean, in the combinations is probably millions. Everything you can think of, and then you can dye it and make combinations, and it's a huge thing. I mean, you are going to see some of the players, because you're running around with other players at the same time. They run
Ah,
by you and blast you. I mean, some of the characters are, they call them NPCs, a non-player character, which is just a computer generated thing. But then you've got player characters, which are live people in that particular character, and then you
right.
see how they've made their outfits and stuff. It's something. It's something. So yeah, yeah. So
So
lots of
Erica, we
worlds.
we started this because we were talking about Princess Katie Bird. I can't remember what you and I talked but about being a spirit explorer,
Right, right.
the whole Lewis and Clark thing,
Yeah.
and so she's going to go into the land of more.
Ah, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So,
so the gaming just came as,
so
since
we
she's
were
exploring into the land of more, just for a visual thing that you could go explore with your character and then write that, because it's hard to imagine wild new places like that. I mean,
Right,
you can, but it takes a lot of work and effort, and then you're really going to spend a lot of time on your story. But if you can see it in the game, you just write about that, and then you can put the abstract, the spiritual stuff, the way impeccability stuff, your personal experiences, you're learning, you're growing, you've got a format, a template,
right.
that you can put it into. So very easy,
uh,
very simple, and it's fun too. So
Yeah,
very
yeah.
okay.
yeah.
Sarah is trying to
Hello,
tell me.
Sarah.
Oh, nice.
So,
Hi.
so I will let you guys get after it, and I will take her outside, and
Yeah, yeah.
we will
Brilliant,
see y'all.
brilliant, brilliant. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Hello,
Hi,
dog.
Sarah.
Hello, dog. I love the way she's so terrified of the screen, but less so. She's getting more. There. You see how she does that little glance, right? It's just like people who are like kids when they scared of something and they give that quick little glance. It's too funny. It's too funny. Like she'll get in trouble if she looks at the screen somehow. It's
Nice.
all right, Sarah, dog. Now she doesn't respond to you, Erica, when you call her on through the Zoom.
Oh,
I don't
good.
think so. Yeah, I don't know.
I just think. I mean, she didn't seem to react to your voice. So
I'm not
quite
sure.
fascinating.
I'm not sure if she recognizes me.
Yeah,
All right, she's calling me. I'm gonna go.
yeah,
I will
brilliant.
talk to you guys later. Bye.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Bye bye, Kay. Bye bye. I did start the
Nice.
new recording, so I started everybody today. I remember to end and to start, so I have no overlaps. I'm on it today. I'm on it.
Very good.
First
Very good.
first point of housekeeping, besides saying hello, hello, hello,
Yeah.
and just so happy you're here, Erica. Really,
Oh, thank
I
you.
I enjoy I enjoy our sessions tremendously.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Me too. I'm happy to
Yes,
be here.
yes. I mean, I shouldn't say I have favorites, but maybe I do. Now, not well. I didn't say who.
That's see.
So I'll leave myself an out. But all right. Yeah, Erica, I'm loving the sessions with Joe.
Oh,
Specifically.
good. Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
I'm loving it for many reasons, a whole host of them, and not just Joe himself. Yes, I'm enjoying Joe, but that's kind of a smallish part of it. I'm loving it for the moreness of what it is for you if I'm
Mm-hmm.
perceiving matters correctly, and in the leveraging of how you can shift your relationship in
Right.
certain ways with Joe.
Right.
Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
I am perceiving this. I'm just testing my read a little bit here. Beena and I were discussing it as we do everything. So I hope everybody knows this, that we go over every detail, and you get
Yeah.
analyzed and
Right.
post
Right. Right.
mortemized and everything in detail. Everyone. But it's important. I was saying to Beena, it's a sad reality, and I'm really loath to generalize. But in some
Mm,
things, they sadly are. Like
right.
Sher brought the point up. Sher sat in earlier to practice some capital H hearing. She was saying that in her generation, women grew up with severe limitations of education.
Mm,
I mean, just the fact that you were a woman,
right.
just by default you were already second class, right?
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
when you were a child, that was still there to some extent, but very markedly less, right?
So interesting that you bring this up because I was just discussing this with Kathy. I had an unusually timed session
Wow,
with Kathy
wow,
right before this, and I
wow,
was
wow.
just
Okay,
talking about
hold that sharing. I just want to
yes.
make one point.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Here's something that I've noticed. Even today, men have more confidence about less ability, and women have more ability with less confidence in
Right.
general.
Right. Yep. It's
I'm
true.
sorry, but this is just a fact. I see women have so much moreness relative to guys, and they have no confidence in it. And
Right.
actually, the relationship is kind of nicely in inverse. The guys need the woman's abilities and their
Right.
moreness,
Right.
and the women need the guy's confidence and
It
their
is.
just ability to apply that competence that comes from confidence.
It's so funny that I mean, really, we were
Wow, wow.
just talking about this.
I love it.
It's so
I love it.
funny.
I love it. I love it. Oh, Beena, come back, girl. Come back. She's just been on and off. She was off for they had like 19 hours of power out.
Wow! Holy cow!
Yes, it's unbelievable the mess there.
Why are
I
they
mean,
doing that?
it's Beena's theory is there's no real good reason, and the government said, oh, they're going to protest. The government is going to protest the power company.
What? Wow!
If you're in charge, dudes, come on, for crikey's sake, it's she thinks it's because they get subsidies, and it's just the CEO is just flat out blackmailing. He couldn't get to it.
Right,
She's just a
right.
complete
That's
BMN.
wild.
So
That is ridiculous.
Pina,
It's crazy.
what she's been doing in all this downtime, because no internet, no nothing.
Right.
Oh, I was thinking up creative ways to curse the CSO, the CFO, a CEO. So she had all these creative curses, very, very sweet
I love
curses.
it. That's awesome.
Yeah, they said like he gets bald from the back all the way and only has this front fringe. That's one curse, I don't know. It's stuff like this. Very
Oh,
creative.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
When he
dear.
drinks from a glass, it gets stuck to his face, like with suction.
Oh my God,
She had a few kids. She can tell you when she comes more.
that is
But yeah,
amazing.
it's just it's an utterly ridiculous, preposterous thing. You know,
Yeah.
in America, we tend to think of every other country as primitive. Like for instance, I don't know, somebody was on and Beena said, "Oh, she's in Karachi," and so they said, "Oh, like what village do you live in?" In
Village.
a city like you do, she lives in a
Right.
high-rise
Right.
apartment. It's like no village. But if you listen to Americans, when they talk about people living elsewhere, they live in villages. Have you
Right.
ever heard somebody who comes from a village in America or know somebody who lives in a village? There's no such thing as a village in America. Uh,
Right.
Even, even the towns are called cities.
Right.
It's like it's not a city. A city is over 1 million people technically. I think that's the definition. No, but yeah, it's everything is a city. It's
That is
astonishing. So I am legends
uh,
in their own village.
right.
It's an actual Urdu expression. It's called, yeah, there's a word for it. Anyway, But this is, I mean, the equivalent would be, you take any major city in America, Dallas or whatever, and if
Right.
they had power, it would be the equivalent. It's just utterly
Yeah.
preposterous. It's the most incredible thing. But anyway, soon, um, Beena never needed a cell phone, but then we were thinking about, because she's looking, trying to get the laptop, and this has been a nightmare. But the cell phones are fairly easy to get,
Right.
so we're just gonna get her a cell phone, and then at least she has, when the power goes on, she has internet, so she
Right.
just has to get unlimited cell phone service, which is very
Good.
cheap over there.
Really?
Even, oh yeah, it's like $6.
Wow. Holy cow.
It's ridiculous. That's for unlimited service. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
even
awesome.
in dollar terms, it's cheap. So which makes
Yeah.
it very cheap in the local currency, or relatively. So
Wow.
yeah, it's definitely something that is cheap there. Whereas
Yeah.
cell phone service, you're gonna pay what, $40, if not more, for unlimited cell phone service,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I know Olivia has, and hers is like $40. I don't know if it's unlimited. I think so, but anyway, it's amazing. But anyway, so at least that will, again, you don't have unlimited battery, but then her brother, they have that extended family, all everybody there. So they servicing the generator, so they have a standby generator
Oh, well,
for
good.
their apartment, because they're on the top floor. And it's a
Right.
nice luxury apartment. They have a roof terrace, so I don't know if the generator lives there. I imagine so. But
How
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's fancy pants. Excuse me, but yeah, it is. They have a nice setup. So
That's
which is really
awesome.
good. So, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So anyway, exciting stuff. So tell
Yeah.
me about this sharing with Kathy about
Yeah.
this role reversal, and
Man.
I need to mention the nuance point. This is
Yes.
important. So the reason I was excited, beside bringing Joe into it, so
Yes.
that you guys can grow similarly. You now can have a shift in your relationship, which
Mm-hmm.
happened with Kay already, right?
Oh, good.
And
Good.
you and Kay,
Right.
your roles have very much shifted, but
Right.
it happens, and when there is an external reason for that role shift or role reversal, as it
Mm-hmm.
is very much happening to some degree with you and Kay. Now it may even out a little bit because Kay is also doing way of impeccability, but it can be ascribed to way of impeccability.
Mm-hmm.
A mother-daughter role reversing just of its own accord can be awkward, right?
Right. Right.
But if it's due to some external thing, that, like way of impeccability, a program, of course, engagement, and especially something that's extended like this, now it becomes more easily acceptable, right? And this in a marriage relationship, or a very close personal relationship, and mother daughter, doesn't matter. If there's that external reason, it makes this transition smoother. So people
Right.
kind of know it, but they need to have a path to get to
Mm-hmm.
to that which would otherwise be an awkward truth for a change.
Right.
A little bit of, but mostly an awkward truth. Now it's a mechanism for doing this, and it's like, oh, you more because of wave impeccability. You're not more because you're just Erica. You always
Right.
were that. You know that. I know that. But it's easy in the dynamics of a relationship to make that shift, right?
Right.
And Bina was pointing out how Joe, when he was listening, he shifted and he would listen to you,
Yeah.
right?
Interesting.
So yeah, and then also, something that we both really focused and paid on, is that how, when you communicate to Joe, whole different logic, whole
Mm.
different communication, whole altered communication. You're not nearly as depth, as articulate, as sophisticated, as more, as when you are sharing with us. Whole different deal.
Interesting.
No, no,
Interesting.
no. I mean, you scale it all down, and you kind of ameliorate it, and yeah, yeah. Very interesting to see.
Yeah.
Huge deal. Yeah, yeah. So maybe, when you get a chance, have a look at that video and see a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see. I mean, I'm like, Erica, what the hell are you saying here? It's just like, it was okay, but it's like, like, I don't know. Like, you sort of
Right.
you'd missed a lot of the stuff. So it was really
Right.
interesting. It was very interesting. But I understand why, and I understand the logic of it, and I understand the sensibility. So, and it is, but that's something which isn't sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
It's limiting for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fantastic, and like Beena said, she just loves seeing love of that kind, when people are
Mm-hmm.
willing to do that because of love.
Right. Right.
But it's we have to be careful with that kind of love, because yes, it works in the shorter term, not shorter, but as a lifelong thing, no, not appropriate.
Right. Right.
It's going to at some point be something that you're going to feel is limiting and inhibiting you. You can't live as less than your whole life.
Right.
Not possible.
Right.
Not possible.
Right.
Not possible. So if you're going into moreness, you have to bring the other person with.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there's a gulf, and it's not a problem. That's why I was so keen for Joe to come with.
Right.
It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if he's kind of catching up all the time. That doesn't matter as long as there is some catching up. And
Right.
over time, the gap might be there continually, but as long as it's slightly getting smaller all the time, that's okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Because once you get like when you kids, your brother or your sister who's 4 years older than you, they were like, I don't know, 4 times older than you at some point, but then
Right.
the closer you get, when you're 100 and they 104, well, like 4% older than you, big deal,
Right.
so it's the same thing as we go, that the gap becomes insignificant, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell Kay, actually. I keep forgetting, but I will remember next time to say, I would recommend you shift from mom to Kay,
Yeah.
and it come from her. I, it would. Your relationship has long since not been Erica and mom, but Erica and Kay.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
it's just inappropriate at this point now,
Mhm.
But she needs to insist on it, not you, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So I'll mention this to her that it will help her as well,
Mm-hmm.
because it will shift her into a different relationship too, and a
Right.
very necessary one also,
Right.
because your mind thinks it's, especially since we were dealing with self-conception, how we conceive of others is very profound. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. I never used mom or dad. No, I
Mm.
refused.
Yeah.
I said mother or father, just out of the circumstance. That was the closest I could get to unhooking from it, and even then I used those terms absolutely only when I had to, because
Right.
I never had that relationship, and I refused by implication, to instill that relationship. It was very
Right.
useful, so
Right. Interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's weird awarenesses that you have when you're young. So it was very anomalous, I mean, it was like sort of like one of my weirdnesses, I guess. Not that I had
Right.
many. I made an effort not to have any, but this was one I couldn't avoid. It would have been really weird if I had called them by the first names, but
Right.
that would have caused more problems than it was worth. I was quite prepared to do it, but so
Mm-hmm.
anyway. But yeah, it's powerful. It's really useful. It's very powerful. I didn't want to be inhibited and held back, and I forced them in that way to shift their perception of me also. So, and my own ability to communicate, and not that I made much effort to communicate with them. Let's put it that
Right.
way. I knew what they were from my very first memory.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I saw them as just my earliest memories were memories of them being egotistical, ambitious, self-centered, intelligent. Yes, because they both are in ordinary ways. I mean, my father's kind of a brainiac, but he's an idiot at the same time. He speaks multiple languages. He's got multiple
Wow.
degrees. He's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he's a doctor, surgeon, dentist, pharmacist. All together. Um, so, but still, he's an idiot. In terms of ego and ambition, makes him a
Right.
complete idiot. And I saw this, and I wanted nothing to do with him. So I always just found my own space and place to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, away from it. My mother was kind of always miserable and negative in some way.
Mm.
When you were in the house, she'd always find you something to do. She just had this
Ah.
thing that you had to do
Right.
something always. And I'm like, at first in my logic, I'm figuring, if I'm because I just lived outside, right? Or in winter, I
Mhm.
would find hiding places in the house. Um, and I figured, well, I assumed that if I'm outside, by the time I come in, I'm gonna have this whole list of things to do. No,
Right.
no, that's the fascinating thing. I got out of all of those chores because by the time I came in, it was dinner time and then bedtime.
Yeah.
So I never did anything as a small child. I lived in 3 different places. So up till age 9 in the small town, and then 9 to 16 in the middle town, and then 16 onward in the city. And in that small town, you would have thought that the stuff would accumulate. No,
Right.
just the stupidity of it, right?
Interesting.
Why is it appropriate for me to do when I'm there? You would think it would accumulate and I would have to do it at some point. No. So I just spent all my time outdoors, never was inside. And yeah, when I was outside, I got to do whatever.
Yeah.
Completely unsupervised. Can you believe that?
Wow.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, completely unsupervised.
Wow.
Walked, it's still a small town, but still, I walked all over the town, went wherever I went. I remember my brother and I going through the dumpster of the hospital and playing with medical waste. The drip bottles, we took them home, we cleaned them out, we put cool drink in it.
Oh no.
Can you believe it? Yeah.
Oh,
So, I mean, we played with the syringes. I don't know what the hell we did with them. We squirted stuff, and I don't know.
oh my gosh. Oh wow.
Astonishing, astonishing.
Yes,
And
it
this
is.
is from
Yeah.
supposedly responsible, intelligent
Right.
people.
Right.
But even then, as a little kid, it fascinated me. So, okay, hey, works for
Yeah.
me. Works for me. I mean, the things we did and got up to, it's like, anyway, worked for
Yeah.
me.
That's
Worked for me.
fascinating.
Worked for me. That's why I do think we choose the circumstances of our birth.
Right. Right.
I chose the most ideal, perfect parents in their nincompoopry and their numbskullery and their, and them being yuppies too. Status and stuff was very important. I got to do things which I otherwise wouldn't have got to do. Like when we moved to the middle town. This was a big palaver. My father, first of all, wanted to be in a little town because he's a megalomaniac. He's J.R. Ewing. I don't know if you ever watched Dallas, the soap opera Dallas.
I've seen very little
Okay.
bit.
As long as you know the character J.R. Ewing, the main bad guy, villain, very full of himself and, megalomaniac and all that. So, and he idolizes J.R. Ewing, even got a Stetson.
So funny.
Yeah. But he wanted to be specifically in a little town where he'd be the only doctor. And it's a district town, there are little smaller towns around it. So he served this huge district, like probably 150-mile radius. Um, and of course, because he's God there. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you the most important. The mayor's got no touch on the doctor. You life and death in that place, literally. That's it. There's no way of going to the city or anything. It's too far to go. So that's it. You got the power. You control everything. So that's why he went there. Anyway, and then it was limited. And as other doctors came there after we'd been there a couple of years, uh, it became crowded. So he wanted to go to a bigger place. And then my mother was ambitious. She didn't like living out in the boondocks. So
Mm-hmm.
so then she looked for a town. I remember the discussions, looking through all the places in the country, and there was
Wow.
specific criteria. Yeah, it's fascinating. It had to have a yacht club, had to have a riding school, horse riding, and it had to have an art school. And also, I think a mountain climbing club. Not that any of us ever belonged to the mountain climbing club, but that was one of the things on the list.
Right. Right.
I believe there was another criteria, but those specifically I remember was very important, and there weren't many towns that had all of those,
Right.
that together. So, the town we went up to in wine country, so it was a very cool place to be in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I got to ride horses when I was a kid, and I went dinghy sailing. Now it was a big mess because my father like bought us the dinghies, but there's upkeep involved, so I never had any
Mm-hmm.
money to do the upkeep. So it was always a struggle and a battle. I kind of had to,
Wow.
get very creative. Yeah, it took a lot of the fun out of it a little bit, but anyway, I figured out a way. But so it was kind of like you had both worlds, as it were. You kind of
Right.
living in a world of money, but without money.
Yep. Yep.
It's just a weird thing. But
Interesting.
anyway, I don't know why we're digressing so much today, but anyway, it's fun. It's fun stuff. We'll go over all this in the young man story. That's why it's an interesting story, because it's going into the psychology of it all and the
Mm-hmm.
alternative perspective on all of this. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah, I digress because I want to get onto this point about relationships and the specifically. I'm assuming is what you talked to Kathy about, the male-female relationship and its peculiar inversion.
So we talked about, um, I mean, we didn't talk directly about the inversion, but that definitely, I think, plays a part in what we were talking about. But so last week, I guess, we got on the topic of Joe's parents, and she had never, I've talked to her at length about various aspects of my childhood and, Phil and different people, but we had never gotten onto the topic of Joe's family.
Interesting.
And
So did she say interesting when you brought it up?
she did. She was kind of, she
With a
has never, she's never met Joe, but, she's certainly heard me talk about him.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, that's so fascinating because, he seems like such a really nice, very sweet, supportive person. And, that's so interesting that he came from this family. And I said, I agree. But we were talking about, them. We were talking about Phil and my grandma, and just kind of, I was relaying to her the interesting similarities and differences that I had seen. And I was specifically talking with her last week about how I was aware of the fact that in each of those instances, even though I knew at various points in the relationship, I knew what was really going on. I knew that there was this kind of insecurity and lack of self-confidence and sort of feeling threatened that was underneath all of this bravado and sort of bullying and everything. I never called that out. I never directly confronted any of these people on the behavior and, said, I see what you're doing and I'm not going to let you, manipulate me anymore. And so we had talked about that last week, and we were revisiting that today. And she said something about, so I think I said that I could not think of a single instance in my life where I had challenged that behavior toward me the first time that it happened. So, because she said, I can think of several instances that you've shared with me where you have kind of said, enough is enough, we're not doing this anymore. And so, there have been points in your life where you have kind of reached this point where you stood up for yourself.
You've taken a stand, in other words.
Right. And I said, I agree, but, in each of those instances, it has been after this sort of tremendous period of being pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah.
And I eventually reached this breaking point. But, I said, I don't think I've ever in my life stood up to this kind of challenged behavior the first time and said, no, we're not doing this.
Wow.
And she mentioned something in response to that about sort of embracing the healthy masculine kind of behavior of stepping into your power, stepping up and saying, no, I'm taking charge. And that got me thinking. I said, I've never thought about this explicitly, but it makes total sense to me that throughout my life, really, virtually up until Joe came into my life, my entire experience has with men who have been close to me, not necessarily men in general, people that are not necessarily all that close to me, but men who are really close to me. Every experience has been something that's been kind of a negative representation of like a healthy masculine kind of identity. And I said, my grandma, my mom and I used to talk about this a lot, that my grandma had a very obvious kind of aversion to men. And
that is interesting.
Expressed that.
Right.
I think we actually talked to her about that several times and she denied it, but it was pretty obvious to us that she was not a fan of men, just in general. She didn't
a bit of a man-hater.
Yes. And, you can argue that she had good reason for this because of some experiences that she had in her life, but, she had this rather obvious aversion to men. And, my dad left. My mom's dad left, and he was a part of our, when I was little, I remember going and visiting him, but I knew.
So you remember your grandfather?
I remember my grandpa. I think he died when I was maybe 9. But
Wow, okay. That's definitely old enough to have significant memories for
yeah,
sure.
but
Yeah. Is that,
he, I knew that my grandma did not like him at all, right? I mean, she never came on our trips to go see him. She would talk badly about him all the time. She was not a fan. I knew that my mom's relationship with him was pretty strained. Um,
interesting. Wow.
and, he was really the only male in my family when I was little. And then Phil came along, and that obviously did not, that didn't leave
No.
me with any warm fuzzies.
Wow.
And every person that I dated really prior to Joe was a less than ideal representation of healthy masculine. um,
Wow.
and so
Just real quick for my curiosity, were any of those particularly bad relationships?
for me or for the other person?
For you, I mean, did any of them turn out to be particularly like, I don't know, traumatic or bad or,
Also, certainly with my dad,
No,
that
the boyfriends, I mean, not
oh, the
with you.
boyfriends. No, I mean, no,
Okay.
not like
All right. Okay.
really traumatic.
Oh, good. Okay.
Um, but
They just didn't end. They just weren't ideal relationships, and you realized that before long, and then moved on.
I had a history of picking some really poor characters, and in every instance, I stuck around until they decided to move on, except for the person right before Joe, which was part of the conversation that Kathy and I had. But
Fantastic.
I said,
Fantastic.
I said, I'm realizing, that even though I'm not necessarily aware of it, that I probably have a sort of skewed view of what masculinity
Yeah.
is, and whether it's good or
Have
not,
or had.
well, had, I mean, I think I'm working on, I mean, I'm kind of just coming to the realization that that has been the case. So it's certainly work that I have to do, but, I'm realizing that I have not had a whole lot of great representation of healthy, positive male experience.
Yeah.
And that I was saying to Kathy prior to this conversation that in a lot of situations where I'm faced with conflict, or if someone is challenging me in some way, I virtually always defer to the submissive position.
Yes.
And I said,
Yes.
I don't think that I'm like going around all the time thinking that I'm like inferior to everybody, but when I'm challenged specifically, I always just kind of assume the submissive position and go, oh no, man. And it's just easier to
Yeah.
just not, fight it or not say anything.
Yeah.
And I said, that's kind of interesting to me that I always, I mean, it's not even a thought. I just always kind of go to the sort of inferior
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about this whole aspect of sort of a skewed view of healthy masculine. And I said, I think that makes sense for me in this tendency to, always kind of slip into the submissive
Yeah. Yeah.
state in all of these situations. If I have this really unhealthy view of masculinity and just, the positive,
Yeah.
the negative and
Yeah.
positive balance of masculinity and of masculine, sort of healthy masculine in myself, that
Yes.
not
Yes.
wanting to step
Yes.
into and sort of embody the healthy
Yeah.
masculine
Yeah.
aspects of my own self,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense to me why I have this aversion, to conflict, and why I don't stand up for myself when I'm faced
Yes.
with these
Yes.
situations.
Yes.
And I thought, I was thinking a lot about just sort of acceptance of moreness and this whole concept of just kind of always being in this submissive, always placing myself
Yeah.
in the submissive state, that
Yeah.
I am, for whatever reason, I have had this idea in my head that I am lesser than everyone else.
Yeah.
And, and it's so interesting because, like I said to Kathy, I don't feel like I am constantly going around thinking of myself as inferior to everyone all the time. But when I'm faced with, when someone is challenging
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
then I immediately go, nope,
Right.
nope,
Right.
it's fine.
Right. Right. It's a go-to default
Mm-hmm.
when you need to bring that into consideration.
Right,
Mostly you don't need to, and it doesn't really matter. But
right.
when you do need to, you go to that as a default, right? But that's changed. You are not the Erica of a few months ago.
It's true. It's
It's
very
changed.
true.
It's changed.
Yeah.
It's changed. It's changed in a big way. It's changed in a big way. Remember,
True.
one of your intents was to express yourself
Right,
and to be articulate.
right,
This is an intent you have truly, truly, truly acquired in a really profound way. Now, you haven't just acquired the skill of expressing yourself. You can have nothing inside and be able to express yourself, right? I mean, this is just BS. The skill of it. Or some people are just, they can talk about anything and they don't really know it to understand it, like a
mhm,
storyteller skill. No, you've added to this. You're expressive precisely because you've taken the things that you inside you and you've really gone into that moreness, thinking it through to the end, owning it, self-proving it, etc. So now it's not a skill externally of expression. The expression is a byproduct of the inner mastery and ownership
right,
and
right,
growth and connectivity to the moreness that was always there.
right, right,
I mean, this is the indisputable part. When I saw you that very first time, yes, this is a skill that I have. One of my wizard skills, you could call it. But I really saw that, like, absolutely there with you. It was so that was it. And again, it wasn't just from a visual thing. It wasn't
right.
actually at all from a visual thing. It was the way you were listening, the way you were communicating, and
Mhm.
a few other things like the way you took notes. But it even came before the notes. The notes were kind of a confirmation, but
Right.
it just added to it. So many stuff. It was about implication. In other words,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the little things that we're doing. It was the implications of what you were doing that
Right,
led to that
right,
moreness. So now you are getting to be and experience your moreness
right.
and feel it
Well,
and own it. And now it's obviously, it's starting to have consequences in your relationships and in your self-conception.
and that was one of the things that Kathy and I were talking about. I started thinking about this, my behavior, historically, from the context of BS, and seeing, I think specifically in my experience growing up, because of this aversion to men that was happening within my family. I mean, it was very obvious with my grandma, but it was also happening with my mom. Not only just aversion, like a fear almost of men, but it was, that fear and that kind of
Yeah,
dependency
yeah,
upon men was underscoring this ideal of men as superior and women as
yeah,
inferior. And
yeah.
I was saying to Kathy,
Horrible.
something that has been really interesting for me in observing the similarities between my behavior and my mom's behavior, and sort of reflecting on her past relationships and experiences with men. She kept herself she's been married twice, and in both cases, she kept herself in these relationships that, from an outside perspective, were clearly not beneficial to either party. And from a lot of other people's perspective, it was, why are you still here? Why are
Yeah,
you still doing
yeah,
this? And she kept herself in those situations because she has said numerous times, I really wanted this to work. I really wanted this relationship to work. And eventually, after lots of time and abuse and pain and bullying,
yeah, yeah,
she eventually, said, okay, I'm going to move on and do
yeah,
something else. But, that I was observing this behavior throughout my life, and
Yeah.
I also have exhibited, the same type of behavior of remaining in these
Yeah.
relationships that
Yeah.
are clearly
Yeah.
not beneficial, not appropriate. And that really comes back to this inferiority idea of like, well, it's not my place to say,
Yeah.
it's time, this is not healthy for me, I
Right.
need to go,
Right.
I'm the woman and I'm supposed
Right.
to stay
Right.
and sort of
Right.
be subservient and whatever.
A lack of self-trust, in other words.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
self-trust is built on self-acknowledgement, self-appreciation, self-understanding, self-ownership. It's all part of that. So yeah, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
but
Amazing.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
just really thinking
yeah,
about um,
yeah,
the sort of historical
yeah.
BS ideology of relationships between men and women, and just kind of hierarchy perspective of men and women that has been
Yes,
perpetuated
yes, yes,
specifically in my family, but
yes.
kind of underscored by society in general.
Mm,
And realizing that I have bought into that for a really long time. And I mean, it is, I have said numerous times that it is truly amazing to me that Joe came along, that I happened to find Joe when I did, and then he came along,
yes,
because,
yes,
he has, I mean, he is so, 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 so opposite
yes, yes.
everyone else that I dated previously,
Yeah,
and that has, I mean, his example of healthy
yeah,
masculine behavior
yes,
and, being
yes,
supportive
yes,
of me, being
yes,
supportive of what
yes,
I want to
yes,
do, kind of
yes,
prioritizing my health and well-being and saying, no, this is important. I mean,
yeah.
that is so far removed from any experience that
Right.
I have had
And
otherwise.
that's why I love Joe, because I seldom see positive, healthy male role models.
Right,
They're just few and far between. I'm sorry. I mean, I have to really stretch to think of it.
right,
It's amazing to me. And even many nice guys, they have
hmm,
this just a sort of an unconscious misogyny that they're not even aware of.
right, right,
It's just in there. So,
right,
you know, I mean, if you were to put them on that universal lie detector test and say, do you think men are superior to women? They would have to say yes. I
right,
mean, if they said no, it would come up as a lie.
right.
It's a sad, and then if they were to realize and see the result, they'd be horrified. Some of them, but it's there. So anyway,
Well,
um,
and I think that has been something really interesting that I'm questioning of myself is, do I believe that men are superior to women? Have I been buying into
yes,
this
yes, yeah,
concept of,
yeah,
men
yeah, yeah,
are the superior, they are just the superior
yeah,
ones, and not,
yeah.
I don't, I mean, it's funny because I don't think I actually believe that, but I
Right.
think I have ascribed to this
Yes,
or
you
belief
be.
that, in our
Yes,
society,
yes,
whether I really
yes,
believe that women are
yes,
inferior or not,
yes,
that's the way it is. That's
yes.
just kind of the way it is.
You behave as if you do.
Right,
You
right,
might not on the lie detector. You might not say no. How can that be? Your honesty will say no, can't be. But then you behave as if you do,
right,
which is a different
right.
thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. To me, in my opinion, women are just way better. So. Oh, I'm horribly biased. I'm first to admit it. I'm dreadfully biased in favor of women. I think they're just fabulous. Guys, for
Yeah,
the most part, just knuckle it. I don't know. To me, to be called a typical guy, oh my God, that's a horrible thing to say.
right,
No, thank you very much. I have no
right,
desire to be a typical guy. And
right,
and they embrace this, and they just make themselves into these absolute idiotic morons. In what they think is guyness. It's like, oh, come on, man.
right,
I
right,
mean, yeah, women do stupid things too, but they don't embrace it. They sort of a bit more
yeah,
apologetic about their foolishness.
right, right,
Whereas the guys like claim it and own it and get into it. And an average, more typical thing. If you look at the stereotype, it's like no. And the things that women do and how they are and how much more they need to do. I just think women are fabulous. Just awesome. So, okay, I'm biased. What can I tell you?
Yeah,
Sorry, guys.
I
But
agree.
yeah. But I mean, how just look at in the self-help field. It's the woman.
Right.
They make an
It's
effort. They are the ones who are, drive this whole field. Yes, there are some guys, but for the most part, it's the women who are really making an effort to do this.
right.
So it says a lot, especially today. Okay, in times gone past, women did have a bit more time available to do such things, but that's not the case today.
Right.
Not the case at all. So
Well, and
different
it's
logic.
interesting thinking about it from a perspective of everything making sense. I mean, I think being in a position, I mean, men being in a position of superiority affords them less motivation to improve, right? Because they're already on top, so why should they do a whole lot to improve?
Yes,
So women
yes,
being inferior, it
yes, yes.
provides a greater
Correct,
opportunity for
correct,
women to
correct.
enhance their own
Yeah,
awareness and
yeah,
moreness because they have somewhere to go.
yeah, yeah.
If men don't feel like they have anywhere, why should they improve if they're already
A-
on top?
and there are many studies for this.
Right,
it's a proven thing, that
right.
this is absolutely a psychological downside. Yeah.
But
Um,
I mean, it makes sense if a goal is for women to grow and learn and enhance their moreness, then this has provided a perfect opportunity for that. Because if it were the other way around,
yeah,
it would
yeah,
be flipped.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
Wouldn't
maybe it
happen.
makes sense.
Wouldn't happen. Love women. So they're just so magical too, and just their ability, because they have this default of thinking that they're less than what they are rather than more, right? I mean, women underestimate themselves and guys tend to overestimate themselves. Because of that underestimation, they are more readily able to acknowledge the awful and the awkward truths, and also
Right,
acknowledge the fact that they don't know, and acknowledge the fact that they need to change and change
right,
and do and apply and say, "Oh, well, whatever I had wasn't enough. Okay, I changed." But for guys, it's very difficult.
right,
I have guys that, they come on the program, and when they get to that barrier where they need to acknowledge that they've been basically pushing this front,
right,
and what they've been putting out there, they've painted themselves into a corner, because they make out like I'm so wonderful, but now you've got to come in and
right,
acknowledge, and you realize just through the content and through the discussion, it's like suddenly your bubble of moreness just evaporates. But they've
right,
painted it out there, they've put it out, they've said stuff about how more they are, and now it's like they got egg on their face kind of a thing. They've painted
right,
themselves in the
right.
corner, and they just don't continue, or they just stop coming. It's fascinating. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing.
interesting.
But it doesn't matter to the woman. They say, okay, I was an idiot, and okay, I learned.
Right, right.
It's just fascinating, especially with relationships. You see this fantastic openness. They're just quite happy to say, I was in a bad relationship, and I was the stupid one. Not
Right,
the guy.
right.
Okay, the guy was a knucklehead too, but it's always implied and inferred. Usually, it's more on
Mhm.
I made bad choices. I made bad choices. So
Right.
just that openness, it's just fantastic. It's just moreness. So on this point, this is a point that came up with Sue, and I'm hoping it will stick with Sue. It's a
Mm-hmm.
point I've been waiting for a long time. Sue's change of voice.
Oh, interesting.
Sue has a kind of a strident tone to her voice. It's kind of a high energy, and
Right.
she's like projecting her voice. It's almost like a public speaking voice, and,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Right.
like I said, if it was the shape of her voice, what's coming out will have a shape. It would be like kind of a long cone with sort of a hook to it at the end, and she's like putting stuff into you,
Right.
like with
Right.
her talking. She's constantly putting it into you like this. So I was waiting for it to change where it didn't have that strident quality, to be
Mm-hmm.
more of a self-accepting, more relaxed quality, and not I have to prove myself kind of a quality. You,
Right.
you see,
Right.
and and then this came up in one of the tasks. It was, what areas of your life do you feel you need to work on? And she
Mm-hmm.
said, I think she said, I would like my voice specifically, or she said I would like to sound more. And she didn't have the word properly written, like the spell check didn't write it, so it was command con something. It was all mixed up.
Right.
So then I okay, commanding, confident, both commanding slash confident. Yeah. So that gave me the opening to get into this discussion. And as we went into the fine nuance of it and the detail, it was kind of a long thing. She was deliberately shifting that way of speaking.
Yeah, that's neat. That's very
Oh,
cool.
it's just fantastic. So I do want to mention this for you also.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you have a way of speaking that I feel needs changing, but there's subtle shifts to our voice. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing as face, stance, posture, walk. Voice is the one also in there that I don't specifically usually add to that, but is a huge part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
we do want to practice on voices that owns it. Now I have heard to what I feel is more of the Erica empowered voice when we were reading the stories. Yeah, when we did some Facebook lives and we were reading and we took
Oh
different
yes, yes,
parts.
yes, yeah,
I heard your different voice too, and for me also sometimes it comes
yeah.
that, but I definitely heard a different voice from you there, and I feel
Interesting.
that if you are able to shift into that in your daily speaking,
Mm-hmm.
a voice that more matches this fullness, it would be
Right.
something. So this is something we can work on
Okay.
and practice in our Zoom sessions.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah, that'd be really a good practice to work on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a big deal. Because our voice is probably one of the most influential mechanisms for the implementation of self change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a magical thing. Talking about magic, do you like magic tricks?
I do.
Are you sure? You really
Uh,
do?
usually, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Usually. All right.
Usually.
Usually, you like magic tricks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
I was playing around with it before, and I did this when Kay was on, and nobody noticed. So
That's
Kay and
funny.
Cher were on. I did the same thing. I just kind of took it away like that. Nobody noticed. I snipped them off. I cut it a little shorter. So I'm gonna make this into a single
I
plat.
I wondered. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that it looked like
It's
the
calmed down.
the
Yeah, it's calmed down.
yeah the threads weren't as far up. Okay,
Yeah,
so
well, I normally add like three separate ones and two on the
right,
side, and then the dreads underneath.
right.
But I just combed it all together now. So, but I'm gonna plat all
Okay,
into one plat. I'll see,
I
because it's pretty
wondered
hard
about
to
that. So,
see. But I'm gonna try the one and see. So,
right. I
just
should have said something because I did when I came on. I thought I'm pretty
a little
sure they
different.
used to come up further. Yeah, interesting.
So I was kind of
Yeah,
messing around a little bit, so waiting for the opportunity to do that. I thought
yeah,
of doing this also. I thought of just like putting them here, because now it looks like they okay, because they're quite long, so my beard
right,
could kind of
right.
go like this, and then just kind of getting up and leaving them there. So
Probably.
yeah, see if somebody notices. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
just for fun, yeah. So I was saying to Beena, I don't know what to do with these. When I was a
Right.
kid and I cut my hair, I never threw it away. I I, I,
Oh,
I put it in plastic bags and kept it, and there was no
right.
real logic to it, and it puzzled me at the time. And Beena says it's a Muslim thing.
Really?
Yeah, they don't throw away your hair or teeth or nails, and
Right.
I don't know. You got to either bury it, I think, or I don't know, not burn it, but yeah, there's some prescription
It's
to,
part of you. Yeah.
yeah, to not throwing it away, so.
Right.
But I said I can make a fly whisk out of this, put a little handle on it and
That's
just.
true. That's very true.
Anyway, silly stuff. So I was contemplating cutting it all off, but then I said to Beena, I do like to. Sorry, I don't know why I'm digressing on this now. Just I guess it's come up. I do like the longer hair because it's my sense of balance. Like when I make the slides, you need to have some background, and the slide needs to be body, and it's
Right.
framing. So I just said it frames my head. So
Right.
now the beard is a little too full. So that's why I need to work on it. You see,
Right.
just and
Right.
I don't want it to be pointy either. So I
You
have
don't
to.
want to be like Merlin, you know?
No, I don't want a pointy beard either. It's that Van Dykeness to it. It throws the balance out. It makes you look too
Right.
angular. So anyway, so I'll play with it. But I just meant it as a point of balance. So that's why it's coming up for me. So it's just interesting. So it's part of the voice thing too.
Right.
It's our self-perception and self-conception. That's where it's
Right.
coming in. It's
Right.
why the association for my brain that um, we do need to pay attention to how we appear to ourselves
Mm-hmm.
because that affects our self-conception. It is
Right.
important. Yeah. So
Right.
women have a lot much greater leeway than guys, which is nice. They can change their hair and all this, and they spend a lot more time actually paying attention to their appearance. But it's very
Mm-hmm.
powerful to change it. So I was doing some shopping, um, buying some. Beena brought this up, and we must ask her when she comes on. She couldn't get a stable connection, unfortunately. So who knows? Maybe we hopefully she'll come back on again. Um, so anyway, she was saying, "Oh, I must get some nice new shirts." So I'm like, "I got lots of shirts. I have lots of clothing, and I never bought any of it. I have no idea how I came to it. It
Right.
just sort of
Right.
came my way." So I said, I got lots of clothing. It's kind of all right. I said, "Oh, I gotta get some really nice shirts." I was like debating about it. I said, "Oh, really?" And then and like so the thing was sort of like, okay, I'm not gonna get any. But then I thought of it overnight. I said, no, this is a good idea. I thought of all the Moreness reasons. So we were shopping for some really nice kind of a little bit different
Ah.
alternative stuff. Yeah. So just
I like
just to yeah, just to extend that because when we get into
right.
the nobility side, appearance and how they leverage their appearance. It's a huge deal. It's a
Right.
huge, which is
Right.
why I grew the long, which I just grew out my beard just because I was busy and I just kind of grew. I had it short most of my life, and then I thought I want to do something different from a mourner's point of view, to
Right.
leverage being in another box, and that's how those things came about. It's supposed to be plaits, not dreads, but I just got behind on the
Yeah.
plaits and they
Yeah.
ended up into dreads. So
That's funny.
what can you do? But it was for that reason. But so I do want to leverage that and use that because it's a big deal. It's a
Right.
very so.
It's funny. I was talking about that actually the other day. Somebody was asking me a long time ago, if you could, if when I was still working, oh, if you could dress any way you wanted to and, do whatever you wanted, what would you do?
Mm,
And I thought, okay, that's a really interesting question because I have, as with everything else in my life, I have all of these varied interests in different styles and, different things. But I said back then, one thing that I have always wanted to do and have never done is like color my hair some crazy color. I for some reason I've always wanted to have like
ah,
really interesting colored hair, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you should do it." And then I haven't done anything with it since being out of work. And I was just thinking about that like yesterday or day before, like, oh, I should do that. That would be really fun. I have no reason not to. I could do some really fun colors, but it is
yeah,
it is
yeah,
funny
yeah,
the things that you don't. I mean, you tend not to think about it because you're used to the way that you look, but
yeah,
when you do different things, I
yeah.
mean, the way that we see other people completely changes the way that
Yes.
we really see them.
Yes,
It's so
yes, yes. Changing your hairstyle and your color on a regular basis is something
hmm
I absolutely recommend, especially for women,
yeah,
because you can
yeah,
do it. And it changes the way people perceive you, and it's a
right,
huge deal. It's a huge
right.
deal. Oh, there we go. On FedEx vehicle for delivery. Aha.
Ooh, is that
Well,
the
not
shirt?
no, no, no. They only come in a month's time. Unfortunately, this
Oh
is
wow.
just some some stuff I bought from the South African food shop. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
it's stuff that's a bit more particularly South African. I don't hanker
Right.
after it for much, except for the biltong and the dried sausage.
What was the?
Biltong is jerky, but don't even think of calling it jerky. I mean, jerky is a jerk compared to just a fantastic person in comparison, right? So that's why it's called jerky because it's like jerk food comparatively.
Right,
It's
right.
it's it's they take strips of meat and then they dry out the whole strip. They, in the old days, used to just hang it in the basement or even put it in,
Right.
but then now they do it in air dryers. So it's air dried, not baked as in an oven, and just
Right.
air dried, right? So it's dehydrated meat, and then they
Mhm.
slice it. There's no compression. And jerky's cooked as well. It's not just
Right.
and so it's a whole different product, and it's just an abomination compared to biltong. I mean, if you want to say this would be like super gourmet compared to jerky,
Right.
I even have
Right.
thought of this as a business idea to do it call it biltong brand.
Uh-huh.
For those who know what biltong is, okay, they get it. But for Americans, it's biltong brand. It's just a brand name.
Right.
Gourmet jerky. That's it. Biltong
Interesting.
brand gourmet jerky. If
Right.
you label it as gourmet jerky and anybody buys that, it's like, whoa, man. I mean, I've tested it on people. It's like any American who likes jerky just loves the stuff.
Right.
And it
Right.
doesn't have that artificialness. You don't have to chew till
Mhm.
your teeth fall out, kind of stuff. It's like, come
Yeah.
on, it's a different thing. And the dried sausage, there's nothing like it. So I'll show you
Wow.
when it comes, if it comes while you're
Okay.
on. So
Very
yeah, it's good stuff. It's very good stuff. And then a couple of special chocolates and stuff and
right.
rusks. Rusks is a unique thing that I've never seen anywhere else. And it's just like, I mean, they're about that long, more or less, and you can get them
Mhm.
kind of cut in a rigid thing. And I guess they take a bread and kind of dry it out,
Okay.
again in like in an oven, so that it's kind
Right.
of crispy, and then use it. Most people eat it dunking. I mean, you can eat them dry, but they're a little dry to eat, and most people
Yeah.
dunk it in their coffee. And they slightly sweetish, not a sweet thing. You wouldn't call it a sweet, but it's not neutral like bread. They
Right.
definitely add a little bit more sugar to it. So,
Yeah.
but it's not sweet like cake either. So
Interesting.
yeah, but rusk, this with coffee is just like super delicious. So I don't know if you
Sounds
like dunking cookies and biscuits in your coffee,
right.
but
It
rusks are
sounds
made for it specifically. So,
sounds like biscotti or something almost.
it's close to that, but not quite.
Right.
Yeah, but not quite. Yeah, I mean biscotti has, I think they put chocolate on there, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
this
Yeah.
is
It's
without the
usually
chocolate. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but I think biscotti is harder as well than this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit more crispy, if I remember biscotti right. Anyway, so we'll see if it comes. I just was remembering because I
Oh,
gotta keep an ear open for the delivery because they need to
right.
get a signature. So,
That's
very
awesome.
exciting, very exciting. Anyway, we digress so much. I don't know why. I don't know. Who knows what today is? So, uh,
Hmm.
chatting about all sorts of stuff. So, what was the conclusion you came to from your chat with Kathy?
Well, we talked about just exploring um, healthy masculine kind of for me defining getting more of an understanding of what that is, what it looks like, because I have obviously kind of cultivated for myself based on my environment an interesting version of that. So getting an understanding of how I really feel about that, what healthy masculine really is. And I mean, I think associating it, seeing it through the light of the BS conversation, the superiority paradigm conversation, um, for me, understanding it as part of that and seeing my view of things as part of this superiority paradigm helps me to shift out of that. But I think replacement is an important thing in this case of not just saying, okay, I can't think about it like that anymore, but having something positive and significant to replace my previous thought of masculinity with something um, more accurate.
Right, right. Would you say, well, at least even just now in the early stages of PSP, that it's likely to be replaced with something more individually targeted, not in gender in specific. They would go more case by case.
Probably, yeah, I would think
Right.
so.
Let's hope so. Furthermore, in terms of the hair color, which hair color are you going to change it to?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I like all colors, so I don't know.
So
I'm
do
going to
rainbow.
get yeah, I'm going to get my hair
I've
done.
seen the rainbow once. It's very cool.
It is cool. I'm going to get my hair done on Friday, and I'm going to ask my girl,
Uh,
what she suggests in
yeah.
terms of that I was there are some products that are kind of like semi-permanent so that you can have
Yeah.
them in, but you're not, dedicated to that color for forever. So I was going to
Yeah.
ask
So
about this.
just get more information and get options.
Yeah, yeah,
Are you tugging on that screen, or is your
I
shirt
am.
jumping by?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
oh, I'm looking at the shirt. I was like, hey, is this thing just, you have a like
I
insect or something there? I'm like,
I play with these things all the time. Yeah, I
brilliant.
can't let it
Now,
leave them alone.
right, when it comes to clothing, right? Because
Hmm.
that was the question. Somebody said, just in terms of changing your appearance,
Right.
uh, if you could buy whatever clothing you'd like to buy, what would you buy?
I don't know. I thought about that at the time, and I mean, I I love lots of different types of clothing. I
Mm,
am especially fascinated with vintage clothing. I think,
yes,
clothes.
yes,
I
like
I just
steampunk stuff and
love
stuff
them.
like that.
I mean, I love really everything. I mean, I think different vintage clothing throughout the different eras. I appreciate
Right,
all of them.
right, right.
I especially love, um, kind of like 40s, 50s kind of.
Oh, that more recent
But,
vintage. Okay.
but I mean, I love. I mean, I think 20s clothes are really fascinating. I think Victorian style clothes are really interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I have an appreciation
Oh,
of
wow, wow, cool.
clothing from various times. But so I'm always kind of gravitating toward vintage clothing, vintage stuff.
Wow, interesting, interesting.
But I also have a serious appreciation for comfort. I mean, a lot of times I end up just kind of wearing a
Yes.
t-shirt.
Oh, that's very
So
important.
I mean,
Yes. This
I feel
annoys
like
me with design. When
yeah,
design is geared
interfere.
towards appearance only and comfort is taken out of it. I see that's why I wanted you to as part of the BS recommended viewing. It's that thing on the world's most extraordinary houses.
Right, right,
It's like, come on, seriously. I've been in houses, especially with the Airbnb, and do the consulting, and you see them. They set up the houses. You got the your bed, and then your TV is off to 45 degrees against the
right,
wall like this.
right, right.
And not only do you have to sit and turn your neck at 45 degrees, but the TV is flat against the wall.
Hmm.
If you've
Yeah,
ever watched for more than an half an hour for that, it's just, and not only is it uncomfortable on your neck, but it's unpleasant to watch a TV that's not facing you, square
right,
on. If you're more than just a slight angle off, whoever designed that doesn't watch TV. I'm sorry, or you are so clued into your aesthetics that you forget practicality.
right,
This is
right.
no, 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 no. That's just no, no. Sorry, uh. You got to
I
live with
agree.
that stuff every day, the appearance. But, it's astounding that people will live with that stuff day in, day out for the once a month when their friends come around. Or the
Right,
one time that the friends even go into their bedroom and see it. Oh, it
right,
looks pretty. What they'd sacrifice for that bit of approval. It's incredible.
right.
It's
Yeah.
just absurdly ridiculous. So, all right. So, if ever you want somebody to, if you ever go online shopping, if ever that happens, and you do feel like some company, please let me know. I
Uh,
love shopping. I love shopping. I don't know where guys get this idea that it's a boring thing to do.
I know.
It's one of
I
the
love
most
that. Yeah,
fantastic things to do.
I love shopping too. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
so
Yeah.
interesting.
But
But
I mean, especially with somebody that you like and enjoy being, it's a
right.
fantastic experience just as a more honest conversation because,
Mhm.
well, if you shop the way I shop, you shopping, it's an exercise of discernment and insight and artistry and balance and moreness. I mean, it's actual application of moreness. It's not an ideal thing. So, it's a pity we're done with all the selections, but otherwise, well, next time when I'm gonna
Yeah,
buy some, I was just bought this now. At some later time, I'll buy some trousers. I want to see if they have a lightweight summer trousers.
I just bought some like linen shorts because they're
Oh,
really
uh,
lightweight and comfortable.
yeah.
So
But I want trousers. I don't care for
right,
shorts. Yeah,
right.
yeah. I mean,
But just yeah, me. I
You can
bought
wear
some.
the shorts. Yeah, certainly it works well on you. But I don't care for the look of shorts on guys. I don't know. It just doesn't work for
Right.
me. And for me, where I'm at personally, I don't know. I mean, yes, okay. If I'm on Zoom, you don't see. It doesn't make any difference.
Right.
I
Right.
could sit here like the TV host with pants on. It wouldn't make any difference, you know. But they always joke. They say they're behind the desk. Oh, I don't know. So anyway, but I don't know. The whole logic of shorts doesn't work for me. Now I do like it from a heat point of view. My
Right.
legs are in their own heat zone. But if I could find a really lightweight, cool
Yeah.
summer trouser, that would be really
Yeah.
cool. So I do like elegance in clothing
Hmm.
and sophistication, and also a little bit of difference. So
Right.
it's very cool. It's very cool. Very cool. So all right,
I
now
agree.
now now I gotta go and find the email of what I gotta show you now. My brain is, you can't talk about things and then it's left un
Right.
you gotta kind of see it. You know what I mean? It's like unfinished, right? I don't know. For me, at least, for my curiosity, so I tend to afford the same courtesy to others. I don't know if it applies to them or not, but I just assume. So let's see, where did they send this email to? Let's see. I know, I just wanted to use it from uh, that logic as well. Uh,
Right.
hmm. And seriously, did you not send me confirmation emails here? Oh, oh, maybe it is in the other email. Ah, here we go. Here we go. What do you mean one last step to order? I thought it was all done. Oh, oh, oh. Well, they're saying I need to finish paying, so I don't know.
Oh.
Well, I can sort of see why, maybe. The bank flagged because I bought through AliExpress. I don't know if you've ever
Oh.
shopped with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And it's just, and because they external, they outwear, so I think it flagged some things as
Mm.
unusual activity, and I had to go to my bank thing and say, no, these are okay, this was
Right.
me. So they kind of blocked the thing. So
Mm.
yeah. So all right, let me just finish this, and then I can go to show the order. When I review, you can see the items themselves. uh, oh, oh, I'm seeing a different amount here, so
Oh.
yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, because they have different stores, so I guess it took the payment for, and there were like five or six of them, and this is one of them. So for whatever reason,
Oh.
it put it on a separate one. So well, I'm kind of glad I saw that, because
Okay.
they don't hold the product for forever. So
Right.
all right. I'm glad I saw, so they can ship it together too. At least it will come more or less. It only comes in a month's time, but
Right.
oh, all right. I'll show you in a second. Sorry.
All right.
Let me screen share. Then at least when you're screen sharing and somebody's doing boring stuff, it's less boring, and it's not as bad waiting. So all right. But you got to also be careful on not be careful, but just pay attention on AliExpress, because you can find the same stuff for vastly different prices.
Right.
So um, yeah, you can kind of get an idea of. Okay, that doesn't show
That's
me
cool.
my. Yeah, so I ordered this. I actually ordered these three. I ordered. This is the only thing I ordered. The same pattern in different colors. So I got the blue, the red, and the gold.
I like it. Yeah, that's very
Oh, yeah. And I have a lot of plain shirts. Really boring shirts that I've had for a long time.
right.
So that was pretty cool.
Steampunk, the whole steampunk culture is
Yeah,
really fascinating to me. I
yeah,
think it's really interesting.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I do love the clothes
I
too.
mean, I do like a lot of it. I don't wish to be specifically pigeonholed
Right.
into
Right.
into steampunk, but I certainly am quite happy. Oh, here's my order. So that's different. Is this my email? Is this? Oh, this was just, I was tracking it. Okay. I wanted to find my shipping order so I can show you what I But I keep getting other screens. Where the heck is my email? Ah, here we go. Your order. Oh, that's that order only. I have to look at the. Is that the same one? Yeah. Where's my order confirmation for the other things? Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. Unless it's in a different. Ah, it's really weird. I would have thought they would have sent me, order confirmation
Right.
email. Oh, well, these guys did. So, okay. Oh, I just see the items here without seeing. Oh, view order. All right. I was gonna say you gotta have this.
Right.
So I haven't bought clothes for decades,
Wow.
and I have a lot. I have no idea where
Right.
it came from. It's quite fascinating. So new to Rose Gal. No. So I don't know if you use LastPass, but if you
I
don't,
do.
it's
I
just
do.
fabulous. I don't know how people exist without it.
I know.
Oh, come on now. Now when you need it, it's not working. It was there for a second. So I mean, you do need to, on the phone. It's a pain because I have to log into it every
Yeah.
time on the phone,
Yeah.
which is annoying. But on the laptop, I mean, on my computer, it's just one time. And here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna have to just open these individually. They're too small to see. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Why can't I wanted to look closer, but it's not.
I had
It's
it
not.
had an open image and new tab option when you
It
clicked
did.
on
It
it.
did have open image in
Yeah.
new tab. Oh,
That's good.
oh, come on now. They have these pop down boxes which are very annoying. Let's see. Oh, it did have open image in new tab. I never used tabs. Oh, well, that didn't help anything either. I just use new window. So I'm so
Right.
used to looking for open in a new window. I don't care for new tab. Because like now, I have to find the tab and close it. And by the way, the zoom, when you screen share, the controls up at the top. Oh, you see when I open in a new tab, it automatically open in a new window because I have an
Yeah.
extension
True.
for that. So yeah, I have a specific extension. So all right, let me make my my thing bigger. All right, it's making any more now, and it's gonna make it a bit out of focus enough. So this has kind of got gold stuff on it, so you see, I don't know
Yeah.
the
Cool.
design. So different. You see, so
I like it.
plain one. You go with this, so
Yeah, that's cool. That's gonna
yeah.
be
These are
exciting.
just some. They're more from the AliExpress. This was from Rose Gal,
Right.
so it's interesting that it's so poor to show what
That
your
is
order
odd.
is.
Yeah. That is odd.
You want to show off your order to your friends. Come on, you want to share with them. Okay, let's see. I did I guess favorite some of the things.
Right. Right.
So I,
Oh,
I couldn't
yeah.
I, I couldn't buy them all for various reasons. Some didn't have the size, and then
Right.
we did plus and minusing. In terms of just the cost and stuff like that.
Right.
I'd rather got there was some like I got some really good deals somewhere. They're like half the price or third of the price. But yeah, you can get this one I ordered and that one I ordered. You kind of get
Right.
to see them. So um,
I like it.
yeah, these were sold out, but yeah, let me go a little bigger. This one was one of the first ones that we connected to. I'll show you the very first one. So there you go. Now you can get kind of
Wow.
a
Yeah,
bigger
that's
idea.
cool.
Oh,
I like it.
yeah, it's different, and they were difficult to choose because some that
Right.
had the patterns had too much pattern. And
Mm,
then
yeah.
and so there had to be a blend where yes, this is a Moreness shirt, this is a in terms of a design shirt, it's putting a lot out there, but some of them were so bold that
Mm,
you're now making a statement, and it's
right.
like, oh yeah, you come with your shirt again, you know So you don't want that either, you know. I mean, this was, but I do like this one, and in terms of the blend of the colors and the balance
Yeah,
and all that.
I
So
do.
it's a bit unique in the grouping. I'll show you this one. Oh, come now. See, they keep having these pop-up things, which are
Yeah.
just very annoying. And then I don't know where the hell I am half the time with the pop-up stuff. So, here we go. I want to show you this one. Now, the very first one that as I started looking, it was this one. This one. You know, in amongst the whole range. And I said, yes, this is a representation of what I'm after.
Right,
Something
right,
kind of normal, but with a bit of difference, where the
right,
whole thing doesn't overwhelm you and blow
right,
you away. It just has that bit of touch of difference to it.
yeah.
That's kind of a little different. And I actually think I didn't realize it went so far down the sleeve.
Mm,
Maybe they have different ones. I thought it was the first one had less pattern on it. You know, on the
right.
shoulder, it wasn't quite so much. But anyway, so I thought, this is a nice exemplification of what I had in mind,
Yeah.
what I liked, you know, or what I wanted to get. So, that just focuses in on that. All right. So, let's come on. So, let's have to put up with some of their stuff and nonsense here. It's like, man, I click. Guess I have to just wait for it. I'll show you this one also. I think this one is one that I did get to order, or maybe we canceled it. I don't know. But you know,
That's
it's a
cool.
it's a
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool on its own, and I wouldn't wear it too often only on its own because
Right,
it's saying quite a lot. But with some of the vests, and I have a lot of plain, you know, I have a lot of nice sort of more plainish vests,
right, right.
just mono color vests. I don't know if you remember me wearing them or not, but that with the vest now, you know, now it changes the whole thing, you
Right,
know, in that
right.
combination. So, but
Okay.
again, you know, I could wear this, but I wouldn't wear it too often. This would be
Mm-hmm.
fairly rare. And I'm not looking to wear this as outfits for going out. This is my everyday wear. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
there's a delicacy to the balance. Now, over time, I do want to get to where, you know, wearing this kind of thing more regularly is
Mm-hmm.
common, you know,
Right,
just
right.
as we go. That you have that comfort that, hey, you know, somebody sees you, they just always sees you. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's how you dress because that's part of the new nobility point of putting you
Mm-hmm.
into moreness, you know. And it's it's about personal artistry as well. So, uh, oh, I was gonna try something. Usually they have at the bottom more like this, but
Right, right.
let's look at this one and see. So, all right, we'll do other stuff in a moment. But anyway, it's just kind of fun sharing with you. I like this one too. The
Cool.
lines, the straight lines.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just took a touch off of me, but Beena really liked it. So I was, all right,
Yeah, I
she
like
was
it
doing
too.
it. All right, cool. So that adds to it. So um, I have a great flexibility, and you know, so when it comes to stuff like that, you know, normally I could. Oh, there's the scroll sideways. So you know, this one I thought of getting also actually in the red and gold in this one, but
Mm-hmm.
then I couldn't find it in the red and gold. So yeah, I thought about this one, but it's a little bit too messy.
Right.
But just the criteria that goes
Mm-hmm.
into it. Now, if you look at these and you say, you know, if you use those that I've shown you as the template, maybe this black and red one, the plain one, can still work. The rest, no, no,
Right.
no, no, right?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, and now you tell me if you see something that you see as a yes.
That's taking a long time to load the pictures.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was going a little fast.
No, that's okay. Yeah, they're just like gray boxes going by.
Right. Okay, well, there weren't any in the previous one, so
Okay, all right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
if you
the one on the end there has
this
the
one,
semblance of normalcy, but it's got more pattern than normalcy going on.
yes, and we did look at this one. I'm not sure why we didn't get it. I think maybe because the design is very specific. I, I'm
True.
I'm I'm not a fan of actual specific design if I can help it,
Right.
because it's so defining and it's a bit
Hmm.
limiting as it were. It's like having writing on your shirt. You know, it
Right.
limits it too much. So, and then also the way the colors come. I want to zoom out a little bit here now. Is my page still too big here? What's going on? Something with the blues, they didn't seem to fade. It just didn't seem like it doesn't seem to have that same professionalism that
Right.
the
Right.
others had. So, um, it just lacks a bit of the sharpness. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not okay. This is now very, very sharp. Like something like this has potential,
Right.
but it's a little too girly, right?
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, I like it. I could wear it. I
Yeah.
have no problem wearing if it's girly. I have no problem with that. But just that little bit, I don't know. Something about it doesn't
Hmm.
quite balance and fit down in right. So I don't know why. I can't say. And that's the fascinating part of this is is the feel and getting into that feel. Oh, they got a different way to look at the more now. It doesn't slide. This one we looked at, but it's too big, the design. I like it. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful pattern. It's a beautiful shirt as a work of art, but to wear it, I think it's too forceful.
Right. Right.
Right? It's kind of really like you're trying too hard a little bit. It's
Right.
kind of pushing it out there. Now, maybe yes, if you are going to a specific function, then yes. And
Mm-hmm.
again, with an appropriate waistcoat, you would actually just see the
Right.
arms. You wouldn't see that big design, and the
Sure.
arms with a nice waistcoat would be nice. Would shift the balance of it. So let's see what else here is. Just real quick. I know we're getting away from our stuff, but oh, these are ones I ordered. I ordered this one. I tried to order this one. I believe I'm getting this one also,
Okay.
and maybe this long sleeve one, not this
Ah,
one. Yeah, I like this one a lot actually. This is very cool. I think it's one of the more favorite ones.
right. Right.
You see, it doesn't dominate. It's got sophistication. It's casual at the same time.
Yeah.
It's got some moreness. It's distinctive without being overbearing. So it's
Yeah.
got a lot of balance. It doesn't have that sharpness that I'm also looking for, like that black one with the gold.
Right.
That's a very fine sharpness, which I really like, but in a more relaxed way. Now I can put one of those fancy vests onto this.
True. Yeah.
Like that black and gold vest with
Right.
the black and gold with the paisley design. Now it just transforms. Now
Right.
you're in a whole different world. So, all right, enough fun. I don't know. I,
Very
I could I
cool.
could do this all day. I really enjoy this. So
I did too.
yeah. So just I want to say, I have a few very unusual skills, and one of them is fashion consulting for women.
I
I don't know
like it.
about guys, but for women, very specifically.
Right.
We,
Right.
when we had the stores, we sold lots of different products, but we sold jewelry for a long period of time, and also leather clothing. So we always would sell jewelry in a consulting capacity. So somebody
Interesting.
would come in, oh, I'm looking at the earrings, and we would ask them questions like, what is it that you are looking for the earrings to bring out of you, bring out in
Mm-hmm.
you? Oh, what do you mean? Say, well, do you want earrings to bring out your femininity? Do you want it to bring out your assertiveness? Now, notice well the language. We're not saying, do you want to look feminine or look, but no, to
Right.
bring out your femininity or to bring
Right.
out your assertiveness. Oh, oh, uh, and then they would maybe sometimes they would say specifically, but most of the time, and then we say, okay, look at these, and say, hold them up and
Right.
check them out. Say, what do you think this? Then we'd give our perspective, and we'd say, well, to that there, if you're looking to bring out your femininity, those are very power earrings. They're very dominant. They may be a bit harsh. Now, if
Right.
you were looking to be more authoritative, okay, that would work. So we would really, match intent to
Mm.
buying jewelry.
I like
And
it.
it become really like basically a bit of a self-discovery exercise, or not a
Right.
bit, a
Right.
lot. And sometimes it even was like little mini therapy sessions.
I like it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
very cool.
that's quite amazing. But then, and two, then you say, look, how about this for balance now? I mean, is it, if it's with a particular outfit you're wearing, this has got an elegance where you're very casual, and it's a bit of a contrast. And we just would name all the different stuff. And when
Right.
you are able to articulate like that, it changes the entire experience. So, and then two, when you can comment on the the particular, oh, there's some vests, by the way, that I didn't show you, that are
Mm.
even more fabulous than these. I mean, just nice. I shouldn't use that word fabulous so much, but anyway. I was telling Beena, I say, I mean, it's like kind of a, I don't mind. Obviously I got no problems with gay. I just don't care for inappropriate, inaccurate associations.
Right,
So
right,
that's all. That's why I'm saying with the word fabulous, But anyway,
right.
especially since we're talking about fashion and enjoying fashion, I got to be careful. Like I said, I don't care personally, but I don't care for inaccuracy. That's
Right.
all. I don't like inaccuracy. What was I saying? Oh, so when you do this with dress and fashion and you consult in terms of your intent and what you are looking to articulate,
Right,
it's a
right.
whole other world.
Mm,
Now when we put on appearance, it becomes a mechanism of artistry and
right,
self-expression and depth and
right.
moreness and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So this is just a whole different ball game, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's
Yeah.
very true.
Just love it. I just love
Very,
it.
very
All right.
true.
So I'm enjoying our chat. So I don't know.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. I feel bad. I want to like do stuff, but it's all moreness, right?
Yes,
I mean, that's what
absolutely.
we're talking about. Actual physical application of moreness.
Right, right.
Talking about physical
Absolutely.
application of moreness. I did get to go to the driving range. I do need to go again
Ah,
because yeah, I was physically very uncomfortable, and for whatever reason, something is wrong in my hip. I think that makes my leg go kind of lame when it gets tired. It's okay but as soon as
okay.
I get tired, it gets more and more wobbly under me, and I had to go to the bathroom, and it was just a whole mess. I was very physically uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So, but at least I still got to, I can still eat the ball. I still,
good. Yeah,
yeah. But I didn't get to. I want to do a bit more before we go. Before I
right,
start to take this out. However,
right.
it was useful because it got me inside kind of the newbie mind, which
Mm-hmm.
I do remember it, but now even more so. So that's very
Yeah,
cool. That's very cool.
that's awesome.
Conceptions and also the understanding and the knowing that the physical, the body, the body mind, it's a different logic, it's a different brain, and it's a poorly programmed brain. It doesn't actually work properly, and sometimes it cannot make certain conceptions and adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's just a stupid mind sometimes. It can't go
Right,
past two steps, and you have to kind of trick it and play it and get it to do it's like, you have to prove stuff to it in a very physical, literal way.
right.
So you'll see when we do this. It's a fascinating thing. It is.
Mhm.
There's so much to this. So uh yeah. um I'm assuming that getting to a driving range wouldn't be too much of a problem.
No, shouldn't be. I don't
Okay.
think.
Okay.
So
I mean, how far is the nearest one, do you know?
I don't know. That's a good
Okay.
question.
All right. Yeah, that's easy to Google. So that'd be cool to know. That'd be cool to know. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, there is just swinging the club, but without seeing the actual ball and the way it travels, the whole
Right.
point is lost. That's the feedback. There's a feedback on, and it's an awareness exercise, a conception. Oh, there's so much into it. Anyway, I better not go there. We'll have even more digressions. It's digression days. So, um, I'm very excited to hear about more. Where you at with us. And I was just telling Beena, I said, I do need to pay attention to this. I said, Beena, we didn't, we need to pay more closer attention to our timing. Because if we do the
Mm,
math, if we don't watch the time, we'll be here for 3 years doing the Moreness project.
true. It's true.
Which
Yeah.
is okay, but so okay.
Right.
So
It's true.
that's why we do 3 instead of 2 sessions with you. So we have at
Right.
least one where
Right.
we can digress and hang out, and then the Friday, the open session too. So
Yes.
I like having the extra time. So where are we? Where are we?
So I made it through the end of module one.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant,
I
brilliant.
the last so I think we had gone through the first three sessions previously. So 4, 5, and 6 to me, once I've been doing all of this thinking through all of the BS stuff and seeing it through the book that I'm reading and all of these things, and all of this stuff had come up. And with 4, 5, and 6, it was really more just kind of underscoring stuff that I had already been thinking about. So I was able to move pretty quickly through them because it
Nice,
wasn't
nice,
so much of the like, oh my gosh.
nice.
So, with session 4, bullshit is lies, I had 2 corrections. One of them is really a question. The other one is a
All
correction.
right, let's see.
Um,
Let's see. So we are in PSP. Let's do screen share for politeness. And I gotta go to PSP. Uh, N to get to the bottom because it's a lot of scrolling otherwise. And bullshit is lies, right?
yep.
Okay.
And
I'll
this,
just I'll just scroll through these because they kind of short. So
it
you
was
know,
halfway through. If there's a progress bar.
no, I'm just kind of going through them because they're not very long. These. So what am I looking for? Which words or
Um,
pictures?
I'm trying to remember. This one I went through a couple days ago, so I'm trying to remember what the picture was. Um, it would have been.
Okay, so all right. Well, let me go through the arranged slides, and you can see halfway through. Well, I guess it would be one of these 3 slides would be halfway through.
At the end, it should say. There is that one.
Still lies.
Yes, that one.
Okay. We tend to think of bullshit as lies, exactly. We tend not to think of bullshit as lies exactly, but it is. The difference is merely because lies are typically somewhat easy to prove or disprove. With bullshit, it's difficult to say definitively, which is the appeal for the bullshitter. They can easily get away with what are really lies. Many lies, complex lies, disguised and implied lies of impression and innuendo. That's not missing a comma. It's meant to be together. Lies of tone, mood, vibe, and all mother of other subtle lies. All lies, no matter how they might be dressed up and hidden, still lies. Okay, so
So,
what are you?
so my question
Oh,
here, and this is why it was a question, because I
ah,
thought it could just be a difference of phrasing
hmm,
that's not typical, but it is for you. When I got to the all mother of other subtle lies,
ah.
I didn't know. I mean, typically for me, it would be like all manner of other lies,
Oh
all manner.
no, I was playing on the word mother. Yeah,
Okay, so that was my question. Was just making sure that that
yeah,
was. When I read that, I was like, okay, that could be
yeah,
intentional, but
yeah.
I just haven't heard that phrase.
No, it's me making up that.
Gotcha,
It's just me
gotcha.
making up
Yeah,
my
so
own
that's I
phrase
just
there.
wanted to make
Yeah,
sure that that was intentional and not just a slip.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I have heard an all mother of stuff. I have heard that as a phrase now that I think of
right,
it actually. But yeah, it's all manner usually. But to say all
right,
mother of stuff, it's like when you are implying that there's kind of an exaggeration or a bit of a mess
right.
upness to it, or
I've heard like this is the mother of all lies or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Um,
exactly, yeah. But all mother of other lies, it just in terms of like grossness, more
right,
the
right.
negative grossness, negative moreness, yeah. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
okay, so the other one is
So the one correction I had was on the last slide, the exercise slide.
okay. So all mother of other subtle lies. There was a nuance to that too.
Right.
Like
Right.
these are really egregious, but they're also subtle, and they're
Right.
really like pushing it, but it's subtle. So
Yep. Yep.
the tasks and exercises. Okay, so I got to end session 4. Pay attention to how bullshit is not accurate and how this might apply to yourself. We assume it is something you do, not something you do. Thus, focus on hearing yourself. Practice, yes, with an S, it's English practice. Practice listening to what you say and what it is based on. Is it based on what they say? Something you have thought through to the end? Yes, that's all right. Personally experienced or question mark. Make a list of what you've earnest. Make a list of what you've recently said, which might be dubious as to its accuracy, no
Yep.
matter how slight, even if you make like okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That it is finger memory.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for me. Um, I was talking to somebody and they were kind of correcting me on this, like I had no clue what the difference was, and I'm like,
No.
seriously,
Yeah. No.
and it took me a long while, and I explained to them, and it just, their perceptions and their desire at the time to have something that they could tell me about.
Right.
Just the
Right.
hierarchy, the superiority. They didn't hear when I explained it was a finger memory thing. They insisted on explaining the difference to me.
Right. That's funny.
It's very funny. It's very funny. So,
Oh dear.
when we hear things in a different way, we hear so much.
Right.
Yeah, moreness, and then also, I understood that it's a long story. It may come as a story as I could write it out. I have an online conversation with that particular
Hmm.
person. I'm guessing probably a million words.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have another one that was roughly the same period of time, which I actually did put it into one file, and it's 800,000 words. A year-long conversation. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah, with Camellius. Yeah. So I might write it. Camellius's name is Mark, so I'll call it the Book of Mark.
Ah, there you
Because it's such a long thing, thought that would be pretty cool. All right, so what are we doing in terms of notes and takeaways and repeat notes?
Yes.
We're doing session 4,
So
right?
yes, in session 4, I mean, it was a really interesting reflection for me of previous conversations that we had been having about sort of excusing BS, finding ways to excuse it. And this session was a good reminder for me of paying attention to the seriousness of BS, that
Yes,
it is
yes,
lies, it
yes,
is dishonesty. And
yes,
even
yes.
if we can excuse the intent, it's still manipulation, it's still deceit.
Correct,
And
correct,
we have
correct,
to treat it
correct.
seriously
Right.
as such.
And here's the thing: when you know somebody's obviously lying, how tolerant are you of lying?
Right, exactly, yeah.
What the damn difference between BS? It's lying. Come
Right,
on, it's lying. When you start to, it's worse than lying. I mean, well, not worse, but it's deception, and it's
right.
that manipulation that you can get out of it. There's an intentionality to it that they know that they are doing a deliberate manipulation.
Mhm.
Usually, when people lie, it's kind of because they have to.
Right.
I mean, yes, sometimes, there are regular people, but BS is when you're deliberately starting to stretch it. There's an
Mhm.
intent to BS. Lying is usually like, I can't help it, I kind of have to lie.
Right.
You're stuck in a position, and but BS is a different thing. This is a
Mhm.
voluntary thing. It's a choice. It's a very
Yeah.
deliberate choice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that looking it up on thesaurus.com, that, and I love
That was really
thesaurus.com.
interesting.
I go
Yeah.
there regularly, and I'm actually going there right now again to look it up and see if it's changed since I did that.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't updated this since I made it, which since I wrote that, it's a couple of years now. So,
Interesting.
um, nah, same thing. This
Wow.
is this is. I mean, especially in the climate. Uh, wow. Antonyms, truth.
Yeah.
Where's the? That's it. One little one. This is it. This is
Wow.
it. This is it. I mean, you use
And
you use thesaurus.com regularly, right?
I do. And
Okay.
all of the synonyms there are
Yeah.
almost like childish.
Yes.
It's sort of
Yes.
downplaying the
Yes.
seriousness
Yes.
rather than
Osh, bunkum,
balloon,
flim flam, hokum, hooey,
and
malarkey.
yeah, I mean they're all sort of like silly
Yeah.
names.
Yeah. 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 And except for crap.
Yes.
That's the one. The one. When I was a kid, you get a hiding for saying the word crap. Now they can say it on TV.
It's true.
It was worse than saying shit. You could say,
Ah,
you
really?
couldn't say shit either, but crap was even worse. I don't know.
Wow.
There was this hierarchy of swear words and
Right. Right.
bad words. It's too funny. But yeah, except for bull and crap, even bull is, but all the rest
Yeah.
are just, it's amazing. And now look when you put in lie. It fascinates me that this is still so.
Yeah.
You see, like, yeah, you have, they have a join and then you got a section. And so section. And I think if you go to look, 14 pages.
Wow. Yeah.
It's astonishing the difference. I mean, it just absolutely blows my mind that
True.
this is such a discrepancy. And it just reveals the psychology underlying.
Mhm.
Bluffing. How is BS not got a bluffing connotation to it, or
Right.
bullshit? You know what I mean? I mean, yes, they're taking lie in every possible variation. It's because of this awful truthness of bullshit.
Yep.
This represents the psychology of society towards the
Right.
word. It's a
Right.
word that typically it doesn't even get mentioned, and it gets put into BS. And
Right.
even then people are reluctant to use it. It's like, divorce used to be this way when
Mm,
I grew up and my parents got divorced. It was the same. You couldn't. It was a dirty word. You could not use the word the divorce in polite society.
yeah.
And that's something. There was
Yeah.
a stigma attached to it. So
Yeah.
very similar to mental illness. Oh, it's much worse than mental illness. Much
Yeah.
worse. Oh, divorce was just a terrible thing. So wow, I'm amazed that this is still so. And
Okay.
and when I looked at it, it was 9. I think in the course, doesn't it say 9 pages?
I can't remember, but
I
it
have that.
wasn't
I have that up still, so I gotta amend that.
14, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Oh, no, I don't think so. So I'm right here. I'm looking at it, so we'll see. And the
I
lie,
think,
there are 9 pages of sections. Nope, we're gonna
yeah,
change
no,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. No, now we're gonna amend that. Very cool. I'm glad I went to look.
Very
14. 14 needs to be emphasized, right?
true.
It's like, wow. All right, sorry. So your notes, your takeaways, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, just I was kind of reflecting back on my own experience of excusing that kind of behavior, um, and the importance of seeing it for what it really is, and um, recognizing that in your own mind, being aware of that. Um, and the exercise from this one was interesting for me. Pay attention to how bullshit is not accurate and how this might apply to yourself. We assume it's not something you do, thus focus on hearing yourself. Practice listening to what you say and what it's based on. Is it based on what they say, something you've thought through to the end, personally experienced, or and I thought it was interesting here that make a note of something that you've said, even if it's something that's just an understanding that you haven't fully grasped yet. If you're stating it as something that's kind of fact at this point, make a note of that. And so I was really, I started thinking this list could be endless in terms of things that are said that are just kind of based on like, well, this is just what they, this is what they say, or this is what's socially acceptable. And I kept trying to catch myself in the act of doing that. And I kept, I'm sure I have said things or thought things and I just haven't caught myself doing it. But when I moved on, I kept going through the rest of the slides and
Not in Zoom.
not in Zoom.
No, not on Zoom. Not in our Zoom sessions. I haven't noticed you doing that.
Oh, well, good. That's good. Well, then maybe I'm not doing so bad of a job of catching myself after all. But I
I
certainly,
noticed that stuff right away.
right, right.
It jumps out at me.
Yeah, but it certainly makes sense. The concept of it makes sense, and it definitely caught my attention of thinking about being careful when I am sort of just starting to explore something that I'm just starting to understand and I'm still thinking it through, to not put myself in this mindset of this is what this is. You know, if I'm still thinking it through, I need to be treating it as, you know, something that is, I mean, I really should be doing that all the time, thinking of things as fluid and not, you know,
Yes.
constantly concrete. But that was an interesting, addition to the exercise. But I really started thinking, you know, I definitely was thinking of this exercise with the whole discussion of the masculinity thing
Mm,
with Kathy, and just, you know, ascribing to that belief system of
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
unhealthy masculine and, you know,
Yeah.
masculine
I
superiority.
would change that word to maleness rather than masculine.
Right,
Rather
maleness.
than making the association to masculinity, because
Right,
masculinity is typically usually positive, same as
right, right,
femininity, right?
right.
But maleness, that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of neutral, and you have an unhealthy association with maleness rather than
Right,
masculinity.
right. Yeah,
To
that
be
makes
to be
sense.
really precise, right?
Right, right.
Okay, okay.
Um, and then I, um, let's see, what did
I
I
mean,
put? Yeah,
those males in your life were not particularly masculine.
right,
They
right,
weren't masculine at all, as far as you ask me. They were just
right,
idiots and knuckleheads and fools and BSs and BMNs and whatnot. So that's
but that,
all not appropriately masculine.
and that's, I
Yeah.
think, you know, that's part of what I'm
Right.
working on rethinking, is that's kind of what I have associated as masculinity, is that kind of behavior. And
Okay.
which
Then
is,
it is. Yeah.
which is why I was saying, you know, I think it's important for me on this one to really be focusing on replacement.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
replacing my
Yes.
concept of masculinity with something that's actually
Yes.
and more.
Yes. Yes. I
Um,
would recommend in this as an exercise to um, to when you go into do it as a task. All
mm-hmm.
right, let's make it a task. So define masculinity, how it or the conception or your conception of masculinity as it applies in its application in women.
Okay.
All right, so you have to imagine how you or other women can apply masculinity and even be masculine and be so appropriately. And
Gotcha.
through this, you are now going to define your conception of masculinity,
Okay.
right? So you're going to build your conception of masculinity purely from its application in yourself and in other women, right?
Gotcha.
You're going to leave men out of it. This is a multi-layered exercise, of course, which
Mm-hmm.
is why the tasks truly. I get inspired when it comes to the task.
Right.
There's something that happens in my brain, and if you now look at this in the complexity that's involved and the layeredness, this is a fantastic exercise, right? I mean, take it as a next time you go see Kathy, ask her to do this
Mm-hmm.
and see what she comes up with. It's fascinating
Yeah.
because it shifts you. Yes, you are going to define what masculinity is truly, and you're going to get a very pure definition, and you're also going to see that wait a second, masculinity is something that a woman can do and apply,
Right.
and any woman, not just like a butch woman or something like this, no,
Right.
that's a different thing. That's being butch, not masculine. It's a different concept, right? So
Right.
any woman can have masculine qualities and apply them, and
Right.
even be predominantly so
Right.
if
Right.
she chooses. I've known very masculine women who, at
Mm-hmm.
the same token, were very women. They were very, they weren't feminine necessarily, but they were very female. They were clearly a woman, but they
Right.
were. No, so it's a quality that anybody can have, and that's
Mm-hmm.
we're going now into new nobility conceptuality, right? So
Interesting.
that's just the multi-layeredness of it. We are completely breaking away from this boxing, this narrowness,
Right.
right? So when you say, "Whoa, wait a second, I can be masculine," I
Mm-hmm.
mean, truly, I really enjoy my feminine side. Look, when we were doing the shopping,
Right. Right.
artistry, finesse, fineness,
Mm-hmm.
softness, gentleness, caring. I love all those qualities. It's
Right.
like, why on earth wouldn't you? I
Right.
don't understand, guys. You love it in women, but you don't want to like it in yourself.
Right. Right.
What the hell? That don't make any sense.
Yeah. It's
Somebody
true.
once said that the reason that men like women and that women like men is because they are attracted to what it is they like in themselves.
Huh. Interesting.
It was like, one of those things to mess with your head type of a perspective.
Right.
I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
At least I think the what they were looking to, what I took out of that, they didn't say it that way, but I took it. It's what we need to learn.
yeah, yeah,
So,
interesting.
which makes a lot more sense, no?
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true. So, and I had written down, let's see. So I in this one I was reflecting on just my coming to an understanding of um, how easy it is for us to get sucked into that mindset of just going along with what they say, what society says, whatever, and not really thinking it through for yourself as to whether or not that's actually something you believe to be true. And I was thinking about um, if it would be useful for me in making sure that I'm not, in trying to kind of catch myself in moments of just stating a belief that I haven't really thought all the way through, would be to ask myself um, if I have any real and potentially personal proof for what I'm saying. When I'm saying this and stating it as a fact, do I actually have proof that this is true, or do I have any personal experience in this being true, or am I just kind of saying it? And to be careful that if I do find proof, that it's not what we were talking about, I think several sessions ago, where you've formed this hypothesis that you believe is true and then go pick specific things that kind of prove your hypothesis.
Oh, confirmation bias, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, making sure that whatever proof you're finding that what you're thinking or feeling or saying or believing is actually true is objectively proven, and not just, well, yeah, here's this one specific data point and yes, this is true.
Right. And failing that, if you cannot find objectivity, right, which is sometimes impossible to find, right, to do and know specifically and deliberately is that you are making a choice of belief.
Right.
I mean, and even when you have that objectivity, to still know that it's a choice. Yes, it's a more informed choice, but at certain times our choices are going to be, well, it's just a choice. I have no way of knowing whether this is true or not, and I'm believing without believing.
Right.
I'm trusting without trusting.
That flew by.
Yeah. Well, we can keep going as long as you want.
I just heard Joe rummaging around in the kitchen down there. He must be doing his work. I can check and see what he's doing. But yeah, man, that flew by.
Yeah.
It was all of our fun.
Yeah,
fun
it was worth it.
fun
It was fun.
shopping.
It was fun. I enjoyed that. It was very fun.
Yeah.
So she's part of that intent. I said, I want to hang out more with Erica. So see how it comes. So it's good. It's good. I really enjoy it.
I like it. They're fun. They're fun diversions from the usual.
And it's still part of the same. For me, everything is Moreness always. So it's
absolutely. But I thought I turned that off. So yeah, I guess we'll have to save session 5 and 6 for next time. But yeah, most of what like I said, with these last few sessions, it was just kind of confirming things that I've been sort of rolling around. So it went a lot more quickly for me. But there were some interesting things. I had Joe go through all 3 of these sessions with me. And we did the exercises together. And some of his answers on the exercises were really interesting, and it made me kind of think about DS in a different way than I had thought about it. So
Is there any
this is,
chance of getting Joe to come now, maybe, and share this, and to do it together?
um,
Since we skipped
I
everything.
don't. Well, potentially. It sounds like he's getting dinner going down there, but I can ask what
Oh,
he's
I mean, in
doing.
case he wants to.
If
I don't know.
I
I mean,
may
I
be
realize
able,
it's coming up to dinner time, but
I may be able to get. Well, I'm trying to think. I was planning on going through these on Friday, but tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Thursday, I can ask if he's got any time Thursday afternoon to sit in at all. Let's see, because I have a feeling, I mean, we went through quite a bit of the exercises, and I have a feeling that it's going to lead to a lot of interesting discussion, because it certainly led to interesting discussion between the two of us.
right, right.
Um,
And that's why
so,
I'm asking now if now is possible. You see?
well, my concern would be, I think I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to go through his answers, because I think they were really interesting for me.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if we could do it now, that gives us more space to go through it.
Right. Well, let me ask. Um, let's see. We could do, I guess we might be able to do session 5. We'll have to move quickly through it, but I'll see if he has
Yeah. I
anything
mean, if
else.
it's possible, that'd be great. Mm.
All right, let's see what he's doing down there.
It just sounds like there's more. There's more to that.
More to what?
Just what he's doing down there in the kitchen.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I can hear him rummaging around in there. I assume he's getting dinner stuff going. All right.
I mean, maybe I'm hoping he's keen to come now rather than then. So, but again, it needs to be optional. So, mm.
Okay. I hear him coming up the stairs, so
Very cool. Very cool.
he must be on his way.
Yeah.
I'll have another chair in here. Well, I thought he was coming up the stairs. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Oh yeah, let me go back to that. Yeah, so the one that was really interesting that made me think really differently about this particular instance was with session 5. Yeah, okay, now I hear him coming up the stairs.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
There he is.
Fantastic.
Hi.
Fantastic.
I don't have another
Fantastic.
chair in here, so
You'll just have to squish on the same chair. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Sue. How are you?
I'm very good, man. I'm very good. I missed my chance the other day when you had that sandwich in your hand. I hope it was a bun. I could have said, "Hey, Joe, where you going with that bun in your hand?" Brilliant, brilliant. All right, so
Um,
we're going over session 5, and Erica Jane said when she was going over it with you, you had some very cool and interesting stuff to say. So I thought, well, since Joe was rummaging about and we heard you there, or she heard you, we can bring you in and we can go over this together. That's fantastic. So hope
I
your
was
knees will hold up.
talking about in this particular exercise that some of the things that you said about so the exercise was make a case for bullshit as to why it may seem advantageous, then make the further case as to why it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some interesting things that you said about why it was advantageous that made me think about things differently. I think this session was one that specifically talked about BS being kind of a shortcut mindset. And I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, and I was still kind of thinking about how that made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you elucidated, to use Sill's term, on that one, and it totally made me think about that specific piece differently. So it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Oh, I think I put these kind of out of order. The second part of the exercise was pay attention to how you're understanding at this point in the course. Note down how you feel about your understanding of bullshitters and their psychology. What's unclear, maybe we'll be coming back to this. So the first thing I had in the notes was your definition of, I think we were talking about bullshitters and bullshit just in general. So your answer was just kind of general understanding of bullshit
Mm-hmm.
in general, but that was what I had down of your answers of your current understanding of bullshit and bullshitters and why it is the way it is and how it works. Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm keen to hear. I'm keen to hear. Yeah.
BS is a defense mechanism, and it's a shortcut to getting what I want, or getting someone to do what I want. I don't have to be fully versed on a topic. I just have to understand what's going to motivate you to do what I want. And then give you the facts that will make you do that.
That was so interesting to me because I hadn't, thinking about that as being the shortcut of getting what I want. I don't have to know anything about what I'm actually talking about if I can get you to do what I want you to do without having to know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's the goal. And I hadn't thought about it in those terms at all.
Yeah. So instead of that word.
Right. That was what we'd been talking about. Yeah.
Say again, Joe. I missed what you said there.
A lot of that is my job.
I got you. Yes, absolutely. Now, if you change the word motivate to leverage in what you said, you said to motivate others, but really it is, if you say leverage others, then it gets more closer in, that connectivity to the BS gets into it a bit more. Motivate is a nice way of saying it. And yes, when you're in a position where you're forced to do that, then motivate is appropriate. But for BSs, it's completely not only leverage, but manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Manipulation is a very fiddly word, and we are going to, when we do the nobility part of the Moreness, we're going to get into the ethics of manipulation and ethical manipulation. We can't avoid it in some instances. So it's a very slippery slope and a tricky word. But anyway, that's a long story coming. But yeah, sometimes we have to do this. We don't really have much of a choice. But it's interesting when you do this, that you have to do this. Like you said, it's part of your job, yeah?
Yeah. And then I said, if I see something I don't agree with, I can interpret that in a way that makes it work for me. You just spin it so it works for me.
Yes.
The facts I want you to see.
Yes.
Which is basically the entire political arena.
Right.
Correct.
And something,
exactly.
I think that statement, I was kind of stream of consciousness writing, so I was capturing as much as I could that made sense at the time. But I think something that you said as part of that I added a note down here, it made me start thinking about things, was something about sort of intentionally taking what, the point of, even if what the other person is saying is something you don't agree with, sometimes that's kind of advantageous because you can take that and sort of spin their logic and throw it back at them and say, look at how this doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me think about one of the kind of commonalities in various bullshitters that I have been exposed to that I noted a while back was the propensity to like instigate things and sort of push your buttons. And that they everybody that I've been exposed to that's like that's like they enjoy it. They enjoy pushing your buttons, instigating issues. And so when Joe said that about, it doesn't really matter what you say, I can spin it to my advantage, I started thinking, I wonder if that is why BSers are instigators, because they almost feed off of your reaction to them. And that when they can if they can come into this discussion as this kind of neutral, calm, oh, look at me, I'm not upset, and they say something that they know is going to get you really emotional and stirred up and whatever, then they can then pin themselves as, well, look at me, I'm being very rational, look at how calm I am, you're the one that's getting all crazy. And it just kind of helps further this concept of everyone else as being sort of unstable and unreliable, emotional. And that provides them the opportunity to take advantage of your being in this sort of frustrated state and say, oh, you're being illogical. Look at this. I can spin it back and it doesn't make any sense.
So that's just completely what you've just outlined is the troll logic, the trolls online.
Yeah,
That's what they do. And the idea behind it is to get you all upset because they can now feel superior.
Right.
That's it. It's a real flat, easy, simple superiority mechanism.
Right.
Pull you down, get you all upset. Oh, you're so fancy off your high horse, but look at you now. Hey.
Right.
Get the Nelson vibe going, So it's like, come on,
It's true. It's true.
I mean, it's absurd, but they get a lot of power out of it too.
Right.
In upsetting people. They're deliberately going out, and earnest good people just can't comprehend that somebody would deliberately go out simply just to upset you. No other reason, but just to upset you. But of course, once you understand there are other reasons, then you see the logic to it.
Right.
I'm not going to play your stupid game,
Right.
It's a superiority thing, and they feel so bad about themselves. Generally, they have to pull other people down. If ever you get into I used to do this in the games, in the chat session. Another reason to play on the games, because you get everybody and their uncle on there. And, you get a lot of people that really push the BS in a very egregious way. And you get into extended conversations and everybody's watching this. And you just basically let them hang themselves. You see how miserable they are. It's astounding,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Just really, they just have they have like a self-loathing in general almost.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way they can feel superior is to get you worse than where they feel.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a sad business.
So for why it's not advantageous,
Yeah.
I said, because once people catch on, that's it, right? You're done. They're not going to trust you anymore. They're not going to trust your motivations.
Exactly.
The only option you have at that point,
Exactly.
because you're probably not just going to quit and become an honest, good
Right.
person.
Right.
Is you have to keep it up. You have to keep put more BS into the old BS just to keep building it going, and eventually it's going to have to crumble.
Exactly. And that's the thing that they live under. They live on this knowledge that this whole tower, that this inverted tower of nonsense, is going to come crashing down on them at some point. And you will find with BSs that they typically will move after a period of time. When it becomes stressful, they'll just change job, move town, and they'll go elsewhere and start over again, pretty much, in some place where nobody knows them.
Right.
So that's their modus operandi, just in general. But with the internet, fortunately, your reputation kind of travels with you. It's much easier to check on people than it was before.
True.
It's pretty cool.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And for my answers, I said, I saw bullshitters as, is that what I had? Yeah. That bullshit in general, my understanding of bullshit is that it's a protection mechanism. It's a way to avoid admitting weakness. It's a way to get what you want.
Yes.
And it's a way to reinforce a false idea of yourself that, you know, you're
Yes.
kind of always wearing this
Yes.
mask of
Yes.
bravado and confidence. And so BS is a way to kind of reinforce that idea. And so I said, okay, my understanding of BSers currently is that they believe, oh yeah, this was an interesting point. They believe that what they're doing is right and justified.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, you know, the BS is a way to make themselves feel superior, right, justified, and valid. And in their mind, if they are those things, if they are superior to all these people that they're bullshitting, it's okay for them to
Yes.
bullshit
Yes.
because they're superior, and that's kind of their right, you know. No, and they've made this thing in their mind that what they're doing, they don't see what they're doing as wrong.
Correct.
Yeah,
Because right.
not,
Yeah. Because might makes right.
right.
That's their logic. If I'm superior, I get to make the rules.
Right. And
they have no concept of ethics, in other words.
If I'm superior, it's like not seeing anything wrong with trampling on other people to get ahead, because for you, you're getting ahead, you know, and you're superior, so therefore it's right for you to be ahead.
That's
and it
what
doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter how I get there, you know.
What
I'm
you
just
should do. It's what you should do. Yeah.
Right. It would be wrong of me to not step into this.
A peculiar real world demonstration of this is in cultures that are really rooted in superiority, you know, especially like cultures that have a strong military presence. You know, like in some of in Africa, you have many of the cultures are like that. They completely tolerate the despots and the dictators and the bullies. And because if you ask the people in the street, you know, just ask average guy, you know, what would you do if you were president? And when they start, they say the same thing. They would exploit the hell out of the situation. They sort of understand it's wrong, but they would do the same wrongness if it was them in charge. It's amazing.
Right.
So they kind of tolerate it. That's kind of what you're supposed to do.
Right. Well, and that's, so I said, what actually drives this behavior is not feeling superior, or perhaps feeling that their superiority is being challenged. And I was thinking that, you know, it really does go back to our default nature of, it's like a way for us to prove our place in the hierarchy. And, you know, proving, I mean, it's just a means. The end justifies the means in that case, that, you know, I have to prove that I'm superior. And so this is just natural, you know, this is just natural. This is just what I'm supposed to be doing. And then with the shortcut idea, I kept thinking about that and what Joe was saying about getting other people to do what you want, and that being a shortcut. And I kept thinking about, it's basically like a twisted form of energy management. And it made me think about, there's this concept, you know, people talk about this in security all the time, that the best, easiest form of hacking is not hacking at all. It's social engineering. Because why would a hacker, I mean, you can either spend all of this time and effort writing like malicious code that's going to go in and extract all of this data and whatever, and get all of these encrypted passwords, which you then have to go decrypt and figure out what they go to. Or you can trick someone into giving you their password in plain text. Which one are you going to do? You know, which one takes less energy? And so this, you know, BS is really the same method. Why would you go through the trouble of literally fighting your way to the top, proving that you are stronger, smarter, you know, going through all of this stuff that's draining your energy, when all you have to do instead is just manipulate other people tear them down and just convince them that you are stronger and better.
Correct.
You don't
Correct.
have to prove
Correct.
it. You just
Correct.
convince them that that's the
Correct.
case.
Right.
And you're saving all of this time and energy and effort.
Right.
So it's, it is like a twisted form of energy management.
Yeah.
And
it's very nice. A very nice perspective on it. That's fantastic.
it's, and it makes sense in that way, right? I mean, it's another argument for why it makes sense, because if you say, well, okay, I can either spend all this energy or I can just do this. I mean, it's one of the ways that I think bullshitters justify that behavior. Why force your way to the top when you can just convince other people that you should just walk in and take it? I mean, it goes back to the whole House of Cards kind of ruse of, I wrote down somewhere that it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz to me. Like, it's proclaiming that you're the wizard and whatever, but really behind the scenes, you're doing all of this stuff to make it look like that's the case.
That's exactly what's going on.
That's not really how you feel.
On that, the energy management, we can also, actually got a nice Claris class story that we can maybe read on this at some point. That illustrates this very nicely. They go through it. But just to short it real quickly, it is also about the reputation. Back in the day, your reputation was, built on actually going and fighting, like in animal societies. You actually fight it out, and then you're, okay, who's it? And that establishes your hierarchy. But then as we got civilized and, physical violence, became something that was a no-no and a taboo. And yes, okay, guys still get away with it, but it's technically legal, blah, blah. Now it's shifted from the actual push and shove, the fight, to reputation. Right? Your reputation took place in that. So you could just prove once that you were the tough guy, and then after that you had the reputation. But then somebody clicked that, you know what? I just can create a reputation. I don't actually have to prove it. And this is where the BS got in.
Exactly.
So so it's really this, it's reputation management, as it were,
And I think that's, even when you're not intentionally challenging someone's ruse of their supposed, place in the hierarchy, if they perceive that you are, that's what brings out all of this bravado and all behavior. Exactly. They don't want to get to the point where they actually have to prove that they are smarter than you or better than you or whatever. So they're going to tear you down if you even remotely appear to be challenging them. Because they don't want to get in a position where they actually have to prove it.
They can't, because they can't.
Right.
No, they can't. So it's astonishing. And, this is where the games are really fascinating, because, typically you'll get these trolls in the game chat, which is kind of, server wide or whatever. And they have some competency in the game, like in player versus player games. And they will just continually be pushing out how fantastic a player they are, how good they are, and all this to cover this, because again, it's this, they have this need to cover this hollowness inside. It's quite astonishing. It's quite fascinating to observe.
That's very interesting.
So one of the task in the question here, it was, pay attention to how you are understanding at this point in the course. So that how you are understanding, not what.
Right. Well, I don't know how.
It's kind of a subtle, bit of a tricky question in a way, a bit of a layered question. So note down how you feel about your understanding of bullshitters and their psychology. What's unclear, maybe. So we'll be coming back to your understanding at the end. So this how you are understanding, it's more the process of understanding. So how does that relate for either of you, in terms of, if you think about it now, it is a subtle, tricky Moreness question, like how you are understanding, not what it is, the process of understanding. Joe, anything? Since Erica seems, but no.
Not clear on the question.
So
it is an unclear question. Yeah.
I think, for me, I am I think, I mean, I've said this before, but I think it's interesting the timing of like the book that I've been reading coming along, which has helped me see BS in a really specific form and then apply that to sort of the larger paradigm as a whole. But I think that has certainly helped me in my understanding, kind of seeing a really specific example.
There you go. Now we're getting
And
into how.
um, seeing my personal experience with people who have been, you know, bullshitters for me. I mean, in my experience, they appeared to be bullshitters. Kind of comparing and contrasting
There
the
you
different
go.
behaviors that they exhibited and the similarities, um, and I think seeing how many ways I have bought into a lot of different kind of larger BS themes without even realizing
Yeah.
that it
Wow.
was BS.
So if I were to abstract that from the question for both you and Joe, right, your understanding of it at this point, it's premised on personal experience. Like Joe said,
Right.
that's what you do in your job, right?
Right.
So
That's,
your
I think,
understanding of bullshit is coming through the lens of personal experience at the
right.
moment.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
make a note in your notes about that,
Okay.
because that's the response to this question. See, note down now, because we want to come back to this later on, and we are going to do, you know, at the end of the this particular course, we're going to look at this, how we understand, and to see that difference. It's very illuminating.
Hmm.
There will be a substantial difference in how we understand.
Interesting.
Be very
Okay.
different, yes, because this course, this PSP course, it's an awareness course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and not awareness of beer specifically. No, it's an awareness itself. It is leveraging the process of awareness. It's shifting us to be aware and to understand the process of understanding differently. So,
Right.
yeah, so it's changing kind of how we perceive, think, understand, connect, relate, have insight, discern, all of this, changing that in a very, very, very substantial way. So,
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah, it is. It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
You already see it. Just in these first few things, there's a shift in the way you're going about things. You know, just sometimes being aware that something exists shifts how we relate to the world. Just having that
Mm-hmm.
awareness of possibility in mind. So yeah, it's a big
Hmm.
deal. It's a big deal. But these are early days still. You know, in terms of the sessions, the tasks. I mean, these are still somewhat more, not so much in that transformativeness of the task, but as you go into the next couple of modules, it'll start to change.
Right.
So very, very exciting, very exciting. Yeah, yeah, I'm cool. Was there any more that you had in your notes? I don't know how Joe's knees are holding up. You doing all
Yeah.
right, Joe?
Now we're good. I'm gonna have to get back downstairs in a couple minutes
All right,
though.
all right. I love that you're still taller than Erica, even though you're on your knees. It's
I have,
okay.
so we went over session 6 as well in the exercise together. So I've got our answers for that too.
Okay, okay. We want to leave that till next time, or you want to do it now?
Well, whatever you want to do.
Let's do it next time.
Okay.
Okay, 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 okay. Yeah, you did sound like you had stuff to do. So thanks. I love it when you can join. It's really huge, Joe. Truly, it makes all the difference. It's massive. It's massive. So whenever we
Good.
can, we're gonna drag you in, man. We're gonna drag you in. So
All right.
love it. I love it. Very cool. That's very nice. All right. See you next time. See you next time.
All right.
See.
Okay.
See you soon.
All right. All right. Bye bye. Bye bye, Joe. Very cool, man. All right, Erica. Most marvelous. Most excellent. So fabulous. We'll see you Thursday.
Thursday. Yep.
Yeah, I'm so used to saying tomorrow, but it's
I
Thursday.
know.
Uh,
And I'm gonna move forward into module 2 and try to
yeah,
get as much
yeah,
of that done
yeah,
as
yeah.
possible. So hopefully I will
Yeah,
make some progress.
it's all
keep,
good.
keep
It's all good.
myself on track with
Yeah,
assignment.
yeah, it's all good. Keep in mind that this is front loaded. So as we go, it becomes a lot faster and quicker. So definitely, do it with the fullness that it's required in the beginning, and don't worry about the time. Know that we are going to have a lot more initially. It's way front loaded. It's that pyramid effect. So yeah, absolutely front loaded. Yeah, yeah. So it's going to be a lot more in the beginning. So Very cool.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, it has. I've already seen that for sure. It
Fabulous.
started to narrow
Yes.
in. a bit,
Yeah,
so
yeah, and it'll get more so as we go.
yeah,
It may have a little bulge at certain points,
right.
particularly in I do believe it's the third module, the one that starts with preposterousness.
Okay,
That one definitely, and that's a long one too. It has lots of sessions in it, and it's like 10,
right.
12, something like that. But that's a big one. That's really huge. So
Yeah,
and
cool.
yeah, so yeah, it will narrow a bit and then bulge and then narrow some more.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, very
Awesome.
most fabulous. All
Looking
right, see you
forward to
next
it.
time. See you next
Awesome.
time.
Thanks, Phil. I'll talk to you on Thursday.
Pleasure. Yes, bye bye. Bye bye. Oh, I
Bye.
gotta go look for my shipment. I gotta go look for
Yes,
my shipment.
do it. Do it.
Bye bye.